We got Charlie Cifarelli back in, the star, famous dog, new book out, cartoon coming in along the way, song. Thank you for coming back in, Charlie.
Thank you, Tommy, for having me, and thank you for your listeners. So they've gotten past the title by now and your first thumbnail, so now it's up to me to keep them listening. I got 30 seconds to a minute before they click on or click off. So, and they got the comment section if they don't like what I'm going to deliver here, but I got quite a story.
So if somebody didn't see the first one, just give a little bit of a recap of the situation with Star, what you did, so on and so forth, for those that don't know.
Okay, if you're new to this story, and a lot of people are, although it went pretty global, in 2012, I was sitting at my desk at my waste management company, not the waste management, but a waste management company, and I saw a dog in the Daily News that had been shot and supposedly killed by the New York City police. And the story jumped out at me. It was a homeless man on the street. It was his pit bull. She was shot in the head. Headline said she was dead. You know, little background on me. I was a scorekeeping transactional guy. I only believe what I could see. I'm a guy originally, from the street, went and worked at prison. And now here I am with a white-collar job, running a successful trash business. It might change my life, man. I for some reason, I didn't believe the dog died.
Now, in the picture in the paper that you saw, was it the one? I don't like to put the nasty one.
Yeah.
This is the least grim of them all.
Yeah.
But was this the picture in the paper?
It was the picture, what you have right there, and her laying flat out. It appears that she bled out, and there was a video of this horrific shooting.
And right here, this is the picture prior to the actual
That's
shooting.
a screen grab from the actual video.
Right, and that guy there, the homeless man who owned Star at the time, he was having a seizure, and Star was just protecting his owner, correct?
That's exactly correct. He had a seizure, and people were concerned that he was going to get hit by a car. I mean, he's convulsing on the street, and they went and got the police. Now, for the police credit, they cordoned off the area, but a lady thought she was going to be an animal trainer and try to get close to Star, and she got run off, and then Star circled back when the officer came in. The officer drew his gun, shot her once in the head, and then the other officer maced her. And this event was going to change my life right then and there. Right then and there, I was going to become a different person, and we'll get into why and how. And I saw some pretty horrible things in my life. I consider working in the Department of Corrections, the penitentiary, as generally I never had an opportunity to go to college. I mean, I used to walk the yard thinking I was in college, I mean, that's the way I felt. I really felt good there because, hey, listen, I was the police there. You got towers with rifles, binoculars. I'm safe. And I walked the yard, get some sun, and felt like I was on a college campus.
What was not funny about the situation was that how do you get over the cop? Because when we talked about this before, because at first you want to blame the cop.
Absolutely.
Like what are you doing? But then when you think about it in the heat of the moment, you don't know what that dog's going to do. Guy's having a seizure, wild animal. What do you do? It's a tough situation.
Very tough. I'm a career dog guy. I mean, I had somebody in South Jersey that had a pit bull locked in an apartment for a month, didn't walk it. And the kids across the hall were taunting the dog. And when the lady opened the dog up for me to rescue it, the dog seen me as the enemy, and I've got some nice wounds on my forearms from that. But I don't blame dogs. I blame the humans that create the atmosphere. So I wanted to blame somebody when this happened. But here's the reality of this. If anything different happened here, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you. I wouldn't be sitting in front of a lot of people, and I wouldn't be doing podcasts. There would be no opportunity for me to carry a message, which I hope to do today.
Now, we know Star, but how Star all came about. So where did you grow up?
I was born in East Harlem, New York. I was born in a clinic.
When you say clinic, what do you mean clinic?
My father had been away.
Prison?
Prison, long term. I mean, he made the front page in the 1956 Daily News, him and Joseph and Briglia, career criminals. They went to stick up a cabaret, and Cops showed up, and the gun was put in the cop's stomach, and it misfired. And my father and Joe went away and got out in '64. My father met my mother. Here I am born. If that gun would have went off, I would have never been born. And from there, our lives would change. But initially, I started off in East Harlem, then of course Queens, and then Long Island, too. Aesthetically a nice looking life, but it really wasn't.
What wasn't nice about it?
If I thought I was a street guy, my father had me tenfold. And I've always been a guy that asked a lot of questions, felt a little too much for him, and I think he wanted me to be a different guy. And he didn't have patience with me, so he used his hands on me quite regularly. And, not proud of it, man. By 8 years old, I was getting, thrown out of the house. I was looking for food at 8 years old, and that's not a good place to be at 8 years old. So I've always been in survival mode. Even when, the movie, I always like to simulate different movies into my life. Trading places. There's rooms I don't go into the house. Closet, I look at the clothes. There's a lot of stuff that still goes on with me. Is that my stuff? Is this? Yeah. I just...
What is it about the closet? What brings that flashback where you're looking in?
I never had nothing, Tommy. I never had nothing growing up. It was just a miserable way of existing. So I had all this stuff going on early in life. When you're supposed to be getting a little stronger, a little bit more confident, it wasn't working for me. And, I wind up growing up and I'm a little disheveled, and what I look to do is whatever I can to be tough on the outside. When that's the last thing I need to be tough on the inside.
Right, before you can be tough on the outside.
You got to be tough on the inside.
Now, in that time period, though, was that common? For young men that have an alpha father, back then, to get an ass beating, hey, you don't do right, you get kicked out of the house. Was that a common thing back then?
That was a common thing, okay? And I'm going to get listeners that are going to say, hey, Charlie, it sounds like me and you had the same father. But my father had a different level of volatility. He was about 175 pounds, and he had energy. And when he got mad, it looked like lightning hit him. And I saw him in action. He got pissed I wasn't using the family pool that he had to work to put up. And he took one of them old-fashioned edgers that you edged the lawn back then in the old days, and he went around the outside of the pool and he edged that liner until 15,000 gallons of water blew out.
I know a sad situation.
Listen, he's fighting with my mother. She decides to jump out of the car in a parking lot. It was almost comical. She jumped out probably not too fast, but 10 miles, 15 miles an hour. And it was like a cartoon. She was able to keep up the speed and she didn't fall.
And you're watching all this as you're growing up, what the hell is going on?
And my father says, oh, yeah, okay. And, he strategically clipped her with the car, with the bumper, and sent her flying. This is not normal growing up. But I'll go on to work in prison later, and I'll find that there always is worse. But I didn't know worse. I knew that I was getting thrown out starting at 8, 12, 13. And, I'm scoring loaves of bread early in the morning before the supermarket opened and the bread trucks drop off. So I'm already starting off on the wrong foot.
So at 8 years old, boom, you're out of the house. You're pretty much homeless. He kicks you out?
He kicked me out, but luckily, when I was 8, it was just a night. It was a night till it was time to come back in. But when I came back in, my mother had called the police, and that was my first interaction with the police. And I would go on to call them my savior. Later on, I'd have some difficulty with them. And then ultimately, working in prison, I would have both sides of the whole thing and be able to really draw a good conclusion of what I feel.
So how old were you when really kicked out?
12 years old.
You were 12, you were out.
12 years old, I was out for weeks with no money, no transportation, and basically living in a schoolyard where they had concrete tunnels back in the old days. And I'd sleep in the middle. So if you came in to the left or the right, I'd hear you, and I could go out the other end. And I liked the parking lot at the school because that's where the cops hung out. And they'd meet there, and they'd park driver to driver. And if they got a call back then, most likely they often would throw their food out in the parking lot, and I'd grab it.
At 12 years old.
At 12 years old. Yeah, 12 years old.
So now, are you going to school, or is that just out the window?
I'm going to school, but I'm in survival mode.
Wow.
my mother and father knew to throw me out over the summers. They knew it was done.
Timed
yeah, they timed it. It was good. But they threw me out when I was 13, when the school year was on, and that was a problem for them. It started to become some problems for them.
So now at 13, what happens when they throw you out? When you have school going on, this is the fourth time basically you've been thrown out, if not more.
Yes.
You were thrown out at 12 for how many weeks, feeding yourself, living in a parking lot,
Tommy, and here's the thing. I'm living in a good town in Long Island, okay? We're living in a beautiful home.
Thank goodness for that. Right?
My father goes from having no prison, no money. He's in the concrete business. But he doesn't get dirty in the concrete business. And he's comfortable. And we're living in a town that a lot of people from the Gambino family lives in the same town. So, I grew up around those guys. And, it would take me years later to really connect the dots. But I got to tell you, we grew up amongst a lot of people that were notables, in good and bad. In the town I grew up, I'm not ashamed to say, I'm proud of the town. Merrick, I mean, you had Michael Kors, you had The Godfather, Mario Puzo, you had Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's,
yeah.
That's right.
You had the founder of Stephen Barry's Clothing, which I used to deliver papers with. I mean, newspapers. So it was the right town to grow up in if you were living a normal life.
Now, this podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy. This episode is sponsored by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels are dropping substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Low testosterone can have all types of health effects. It can affect your muscle mass, memory, mood, sex drive, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. They're a worldwide leader in at-home testing kits, and their male hormone test lets you easily test your testosterone levels at home. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available to you in your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. These results are reviewed by a clinician, and a member of Let's Get Checked nursing team may call you to review your results. Let's Get Checked laboratories are CLIA approved and CAP accredited, which is the highest ranking levels of accreditation. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS. Special offer for MSCS media viewers. Use promo code MSCS at checkout and get 30% off your test. The link is in the description below at the top. This episode is brought to you by Aurora. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is? For years, this crime rate has been surging and affecting millions of Americans. I'm talking about identity theft, and there's a new victim every 14 seconds. That's why I'm excited to partner with Aurora, who is sponsoring this video. Aurora is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all combined into one easy-to-use app. Aurora monitors the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers and sends alerts fast, right to your phone and email. Don't put your family at risk. Try Aurora for free for 2 weeks and see if your personal identifiable information has leaked to the dark web. Start your free trial at https://aura.com/MSCS. Link is in the description below. You're 13 and you're going into school, a homeless kid. Yeah. Everybody else is going back to mom and dad or one of the two. What is that like going in there? Like, how do you shower? How do you clean?
You don't.
You're not ready for that.
You don't. Listen, you don't. And once that's done to you at a young age, I rescue dogs. And I see the difference from a dog that I have since he's a baby He's got the confidence unbelievable. He's never worried that a meal's coming or not coming. He's not worried, sirens, lightning. He's confident. But the shelter dogs that I get from the shelters, from whether Philly, whether it be from New York, those dogs are always worried about if there's going to be another meal. They're cautious. They're in survival. They're a little bit beyond survival mode. Dogs seem to rebound better than humans. But that started me off in a place that I never have really been able to get away from that completely.
Well, that explains why the attraction to those dogs is, because, especially the rescues, because weren't you living the same way, looking for that meal,
Brother,
having an escape route one way or another? I mean,
I got to tell you something.
Talk about a human dog connection. Shit.
You know, I want to say something on your show. How can you not love these dogs? And the people that want to say negative things about the dogs, the bully breeds, the Dobermans. Well, you don't hear about the Dobermans anymore. The media doesn't. They stop biting. The German Shepherds don't bite no more. It's only pit bulls. And anything's called a pit bull now. A Labrador overweight's a pit bull. A Rhodesian Ridgeback that's got extra. Everything is a pit bull until I do the DNAs and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Why is that? Because before everybody used to be like Doberman, German Shepherd, watch the fuck out.
Yeah, there's a few reasons. They're a very powerful dog, okay? They don't lock, okay? This locking nonsense. My Jack Russell supposedly locks, okay? And he won't let go of something that you want to take. There's no locking mechanism. The powerful dogs and weak people make these dogs aggressive, okay? And that could be done. You take the nicest person, you could get them aggressive. Now, on top of that, we've seen it recently with Mike Tyson. You bother him long enough, even though he's got a pot farm and he's a gentleman with great motivational speech, you keep on bothering the man, you hit him with a water bottle, he's going to come at you. And guess what? There were people that pointed the finger, look at that. No. So, Italy, where my family hails from originally, they put a ban on all pit bulls. Then the thugs made the next dog, Cane Corsos, and they kept on going down until they had to ban Dalmatians. And this is all online. This stuff can be looked at. So there are people that are going to say, well, we adopted a pit bull from the shelter and he bit, and that can happen. We don't know these dogs' background. And in an insane world, people want sane dogs. If the human beings, the two-legged with high IQ, are spinning out of control, how is man's best friend going to act? I mean, we have to look at stuff about what's going on. I mean, we are, as a society, getting really crazy. I don't get into the political stuff because I've been saved on every possibility of no chance to be saved. I've been saved. So help comes from everywhere. But as far as the dogs, we're going to get into this. So when I decided to get a dog.
Is this at 13?
No. This is. I want to go back for a second. I want to go forward and go back. So in 2010, I decided to get a dog. I want a small dog. I want a dog that's a Jack Russell. I want him to be a cute little muscular dog. So I get this dog. This dog creates me more headaches than I could ever imagine. I take him to a dog park. He wound up biting, of all dogs, a pit bull on the lip, and he wouldn't let go. So the dog was going in circles. So I had to deal with that. Vet bill, I had to deal with that. So I had this Jack Russell. And the reason why I got this Jack Russell is I didn't realize this. I wanted something that was masculine. I suffer from a little toxic masculinity. Who doesn't? But I blocked out in my head what happened as a kid. And my significant other, Jen, would bring up different things, different dogs. Or I go to dog park and I'd have an attitude against these pit bulls. And I didn't realize I had suppressed that my boyhood dog was a pit bull.
Oh.
I had suppressed that. It would take a filmmaker in 2020 to say to me, Charlie, there's some stuff going on here. There's a reason why you rescued this dog, Star. There's more going on. So, Tommy, we'll get here in a second. So we're back to 12 or 13, the homeless shit, all that crazy stuff. So I finally get out of my house at 17 years old. And I found the easiest way to take care of myself was to lift weights, to eat, to punch a heavy bag. back when I was a kid growing up, was the Bruce Lee, The Art of Fighting, whatever. He had a series 1 through 4 of Jeet Kune Do. I learned a few of those moves, and I just continue to remember what he say. Practice just a few moves, get proficient. So I'm doing all this stuff.
But where are you at, though? You're 17, 18.
Yeah.
You're out. Where are you?
I'm out of my parents' house. 17, I get out.
Where do you go?
I wind up in an apartment, but I wind up with a job at a big nightclub in Long Island, Malibu, a very big nightclub. It's the place. I mean, tuxedos, the whole bit that you wear, cummerbund. So I got a job at a nightclub, and I'm a young guy, 17. The drinking age is 18 at the time. They hired me sooner, and you know, I look like a young version of Joe Klecko because I could fill out pretty thick.
Was that your first real job?
That was my first, outside of the newspaper, that was my first real job, is working in a nightclub. And I was a by-the-book guy starting out. I mean, the guys were sniffing coke in the bathroom. No, you get out. But I quickly was getting into altercations. And a lot of times, I think I should have been thrown out. I was the guy creating more of a problem because I discovered alcohol. I discovered shots of vodka. So the bartenders knew I was a wild man because I had all this suppressed anger. So they handed me this white stuff, clear stuff called Absolute. And I'm drinking these shots, and I can't believe I mean, I could drink a lot of alcohol. And the more I'm drinking, the more I find out we're having problems. So finally, I mean, I'm running after a guy, tackle him in a parking lot, and they just, at some point, between that, and then I had an arrest. I broke a bunch of store windows out. My cousin got in a fight with me. And I broke out a bunch of store windows with my hands. And between that arrest and what happened in the nightclub, they fired me.
And was this all a result of the drinking?
It was a result of the drinking, Tommy. But
I mean, I understand your past has a lot to do with that. But the drinking brought out the anger.
It brought out the anger. But
and
Tommy,
the rage.
I got my hands on, back then, it was no big thing to get some pain pills. I mean, there was stuff called Percodan back then, which was light, but then there's Dilaudid. So I had older guys that at the club would tell me, hey, man, you know,
try this.
Yeah. And Tommy, I'm a young guy, but I'm already busted up. I mean, I'm already a guy busted. I've been in a lot of fights. I'm scarred up from these fights. And I got all this rage that I never dealt with. I mean, I was a punching bag for my father. And because I was a punching bag for him, that never got addressed. Now, was he a tough guy? Looking back, well, I remember one time he did stick up for me. Me and my brother threw some fireworks. And the kids with Corvette, they were probably 22, 24. Big guys, look like football players back then because they filled up the whole front seat of that Corvette back then, a long-bodied 78, 79. My father came out of the house, ran down, ran up the hood, jumped into the open T-tops, threw the keys out of the ignition, and resulted in punching this guy between the eyes. His head blew up like a pumpkin, and he was beating the shit out of these kids. And he gets out of the car, and the party they came from, people coming out, and he's dropping people. When the police finally show up and people are laying down, they cannot believe. They're trying to tell him, which I'll learn years later in the Department of Corrections, they would put a wrist lock on him and take him down. No. This guy was fair. He reminds me of McGregor. I mean, he just was able to kick,
just
punch,
an animal,
and move. And then when somebody was going to, like when you watch football and all of a sudden you think a guy's going to get tackled and all of a sudden he completely switches positions, he was switching positions.
Almost like a cut, like a real sharp cut.
Sharp cut. I guess whatever happened in Dannemora and Clinton for the 9 years he was up there, he learned some skills. I mean, this guy learned some skills, and he was a fighter. And he was, even till in his 70s, he looked like a guy you just didn't want to jack with. So I get through all that.
Now, was he hitting you above the neck? Like, was he hitting you in the head?
He was hitting the head.
Everywhere, really?
He was hitting in the head. I took some shots from him that I was getting hit like a man. And that's bullshit.
Do you have flashbacks today from that? Like, do you have dreams sometimes of that happening now?
I don't, believe it or not, I don't have that. But, you know, I do things that regular people probably don't do. You know, I'm cautious in the shower. I know I'm vulnerable in the shower, so I'm always looking. And I've not had a problem in the shower. But that's a spot where I'm vulnerable. I'm told I sleep with my arms crossed. I always look around, and I always pay attention. And, you know, take all this in a few years away, I'm going to be working for the big house. I'm going to work 3 maximum security prisons. I'm going to see and deal with serial killers and all this stuff. But before we get there,
how you got there is really interesting. And all these little things like that had happened all led to positives. All the negatives, you found a way in your life to turn to negatives. Now, that doesn't take away from what had happened to you and what goes through your mind, but career and fucking financially wise, it worked out all right. Your head, maybe not.
It worked out, but
I mean that in a nice way. I think I'm nuts too, if it makes you feel like that.
It is what it is, but you know what? I persevered, and the only downside that almost killed me, and we talked about this in the last episode, is I grew up in a nice town, and when I got whacked out on the drugs, I didn't want to make a mess of my own hometown. So basically, I went to the worst neighborhood, the worst place I possibly could go. Listen, I'm a street savvy guy. Where am I going to go where the police won't arrest me, I can get the drugs, and they're too busy robbing and stealing themselves? And that's the 7-5 precinct, which of course we know with the documentary and Mike and the rest of the crew that did that. And I was there, and I survived. People go to war, and I got to tell you, we all have our own story, and I'm not at all trying to say my story is the same as that, because it's all self-imposed. If you want to completely point the finger at me and say addiction is totally my fault, okay, you have a right to say that. But I had a choice the first time I took a drug, but after I took that drug, the drug took me. And then once I found the pain relief from that drug, you see, I wasn't a guy that was into cocaine. I never did meth. I wanted stuff to take my pain away. But that painkillers, whether it be pills, heroin, drinking methadone, made me that fucking violent.
You can drink methadone?
You could drink methadone.
Really?
Yeah, and I guess now, I don't keep up on this, but there's Suboxone, whatever. I don't know what that is.
But back then you could drink it?
You could drink it.
Fucking weird.
See, because I'll tell you what. When I was in the streets, I'd have a V8 vegetable juice, and I'd have the methadone in there, because if the police were going to come up on me, I would drink that.
V8.
I would drink that in case they took me to jail. I would not percolate like Bruce Lee kicking. I mean, I would be able to get through there 3 days or whatever. But as luck or not luck would have it, I was not building a police record. It just was happening like that. But I spent 6 years. I spent, almost 6 years, 5 years from 87 to 92, reporting for duty in the East New York section of Brooklyn.
And why did you say that the cops in East New York wanted to kill you?
Well, it got to that point at one point because the regular cops, they're busy doing what they're doing. Listen, I got to overemphasize this. Even in the most corrupt areas, there's always legitimate people. I mean, we've seen American Gangster. There's always people that are ethically and morally correct, and they're incorruptible. But I used that place, so I knew that I wouldn't get a police record and I'd be able to roll. But eventually, they had something called the TNT, Tactical Narcotics Task Force. And it was formed about 1989 after a New York City police officer, Edward Burns, was assassinated in his police car guarding a drug witness in Jamaica. It was a very, very sad situation. He was 22 years old, and they shot him. And that was bad news. And rightfully so, the police and the mayor put together this TNT, and they went after anybody that was using, selling, and doing anything. And on this particular day, when I went to buy drugs, I realized I bought the drugs, and there was a lot of cops coming at me, okay, from multiple vehicles that were unmarked. So what do I decide to do? I don't stop. I mean, they're running out of their cars, guns. I take off.
You just run like hell?
I run on. I get the car up to 100 miles an hour. Now, it's hard to do that.
This is fucking downtown New York?
No, this is Brooklyn. Now it's
still
it's a place back then that's pretty burnt out, pretty desolate, but
yeah, I'm thinking of it now.
Yeah.
Well, what year is this?
This is 89. This is 89. So, Tommy, I basically do that, and eventually, when I got done chewing, swallowing, opening up packages, by the time they finally get me, there's nothing to take.
How high were you?
Oh, no, I don't get high anymore. I get straight.
Oh, this just got you. You just had enough wind to get you straight.
It just got me straight. So now,
I thought you ate like a ton of shit.
well, it did, but it just got me straight. It just got me straight. I had a gorilla on my back. So the cops, the sergeant leading this charge, they all got guns pulled out. I mean, I thought it was Dirty Harry. I didn't think that the cops plain clothes had wheel guns, but back then they did have wheel guns, but this was a big wheel gun.
What's a wheel gun?
Revolver with a long barrel.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think
like one of them fucking
like Dirty Harry
movies,
special.
Yeah, where they shoot it and a flag pops
Yeah.
up, but this is really a bullet in there.
Yeah, so they were taken back. They asked me if I had any family on the job, and I did. I had a girl cousin that moved up at least a lieutenant. I think at the time she might have been heading to a captain or a captain in Manhattan. And I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to do that, disgrace her. Yeah. So they lock me up, and they go looking for whatever residue they can do, and they bring me down to the 7-5 and stick me in a cell by myself. And they're taken back a little bit, Tommy, because I'm a guy that's about 230 some odd pounds. I don't look like a drug addict. I mean, to people, they thought I was a cop. They thought I was a football player, and I was perplexing them a little bit. And the cop says to me, "You got a real bad attitude." And I wasn't backing down. I said, I didn't want to hear nothing, And he says, you could leave here in a body bag. The choice is yours. I said, "Are you going to kill me?" He says, "Things happen." And back then, I believed him. I mean, maybe now, I still believe him now.
I believe it more now than then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's only me and him, and there's no witnesses to this thing, okay? So
now they're just paid off.
Now I'm saying to myself, this ain't good. So here's what I say to him. I finally pulled the card out. I said, "Look, I do have family on the job. Supervisor. And there's a record that I came to this precinct today. A lot of people know. The neighborhood knows you locked me up. There's radio traffic. If I don't leave here, there's going to be problems." So
what did he say?
He was perplexed. I got to tell you something. He was a big guy. He was a big guy. I mean, in height, and he's older. Listen, I'm a young guy. In '89, I'm 20 some odd years old. I mean, he was confident that he would have whipped my butt if he felt like it, or maybe took it to the next level. So here's what happens. They take me and they transfer me to another precinct, the 90th precinct. And I don't never know why they did that, but they did that for me. And I sit there for days. And the lieutenant in the precinct was very kind to me. He goes, "Son, what are you doing, man? What are you doing in this neighborhood? What's going on?" I mean, I'm not a big McDonald's eater even back then, but I was never so happy for a McDonald's hamburger. I was like, wow, this is good. So I got to court, and I got to court late. And you got 72 hours, I guess, to be arraigned. Yes, I don't guess. I know that. You got 72 hours. So there was nothing came out of this. And I never went back, Tommy, and got my car to the impound lot. I just never did nothing.
What was the prisons like in '89 or whenever that was? What was that like?
Well, back then you went to the precinct, which had a little mini jail in there. And then from there, you went to central booking. And then you would have went to Rikers. But I never got to that point.
Rikers, huh?
Yeah, I never got to that point. I got to the central booking, and then from central booking, I went in front of the judge, and he cut me loose.
You got loose.
The funny thing about this? I was so miserable. I was sick from having no dope. I was dirty. And I was hungry. I said, I get out of this place with no record, I'll kiss the ground. I got out of that damn courthouse on Skimhorn Street. I looked at the ground. Not this time.
Maybe next time, right?
Maybe next time. Not this time. So I got out, Tommy. I got out. And, this will go on back and forth, but now we're going to enter the dog. Somewhere along the line.
Well, before Star comes along, you had 2 dogs prior to that, and one had got hit by a car. Is that right?
We're going to talk about, I had Ringo, my original dog from when I was a kid, which is a German Shepherd. Okay. And he was named after the Beatles, and we took him back then. We had a few good years. We went to Woodstock. We didn't get in, but my father still wanted to be around that atmosphere. So here's what happens. After this arrest, I realize I can't go to East New York anymore because these cops are on to me. I got to find a way to legally go there. So I find a soda delivery company that so happens to go not only to East New York, they go to the Bronx, they go to neighborhoods.
All your spots.
They wouldn't want to be found dead, and they go to 14th and 2nd. They go to every place a guy would need to go if he's up to no good. So I interview, and there's some cheap soda. Back then it's called Jamaica Natural. This stuff is like Dye-Glow. I mean, it's orange, it's green. I'll live on the stuff to keep me going with calories. You can become skinny fat. You're skinny all over, but you got a gut. So I wind up getting a truck, lassoing a truck, cutting a deal, getting a truck, and delivering this soda. And here's the thing about addiction. Addiction, why it's so baffling, is controllable for a while. As you're taking the elevator down, you have opportunities to get out in lobbies every once in a while. The elevator stops.
Stop on 16,
yeah,
14.
And you say to yourself, you know what, this ain't that bad. And you have some fun. And if any addict or alcoholic or overeater said, you know what, it was all bad, they'd be lying. There are some things that are comical on the light side. It's all bad, but there are some things. So on the way down, I get the soda delivery route. And people thought I had beat the addiction. Because not only did I get the soda delivery route, I'm making money. And I'm able to pay for my drugs. And I'm able to live my life. And I wind up finding a dog at one of these stops.
What stop was it?
It was a stop on Jamaica Avenue in the outskirts of East New York.
I knew you would remember exactly where it was.
I remember the situation. I remember the dog. He looked like a lion. He was beautiful. And this was the days before, for people that don't know, the pit bulls got demonized when they got put on the cover of Sports Illustrated, okay? And they were used. I remember people saying to me back then, oh, these dogs, you can make them real tough, man. These dogs are great dogs. I mean, I'm like, holy cow. I think of a dog as like Lassie and Rin Tin Tin. That's just not in me. Look, even though I eat meat, I think about it coming in from the supermarket. If you'd said to me, go kill a cow, I couldn't do it. I've never in my entire life ate any seafood. I mean, I just look at a lobster or a crab. I mean, I'm just not a part of it. You would cure me of that too if you put. And I was out in the Midwest, so
I actually never hunted in my life and never fished. Wow. I never pulled a fish because I feel bad. I really do feel bad. Never did.
It's just not my. So,
just real quick, speaking on that, do you think Michael Vick should have got the time he got for the dog fighting?
It's in crimes and sentences, it's very complicated because we can't, in America, we don't sentence on our feelings. We don't have an eye for an eye justice system here, okay? And that people have to realize. I think Thomas Jefferson said, justice without mercy is cruel. So we don't have an eye for an eye. So I would really have to know what the sentencing guidelines were on that particular case. It's so ugly and sad. You would think that Michael Vick, as much success as he had, he would have wanted to prop up these dogs and do something different. But again, who knows what demons he's got? But that's his deal. Okay.
I will say this about him. I don't know either. I just was curious of your opinion on it. But I do know when he got out, he did a lot of really good things to help, rescue dogs and everything else. And I don't believe that he did it because for probation. I really think he meant it.
Tommy, and that's a good point. And for those of us that are not spiritual, that don't believe in God, life gives us second chances. It's called tomorrow. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So your tomorrow is completely clean slate. And it bothers me, and it's always bothered me, that inmates serve their time and that their record holds them back. Now, granted, if you're a nurse and you were selling the narcotics of a hospital and you were never able to complete the steps necessary because you keep failing, then you can't go back in that line of work. It's not working for you. But in the case of people serving their time, and I don't want to go to people hit me with extreme. Not everybody's Charlie Manson in prison, and not everybody is a pedophile. There are a lot of human beings that have made mistakes, financial embezzlement, fights, driving drunk. There's a whole litany of ways that you can get to prison and not be a career criminal or even have been in trouble more than once.
But shouldn't it be? Even, as we're about to get to your background as a correction officer, if you get sentenced to 5 years, 3 years probation, right?
Right.
If you do your 5 years and you finish out your probation, you pay your fine, you pay your monthly probation, that should be wiped. You did your time. You paid your debts to society.
I believe it.
Especially if it's a non-violent crime, right? Yes. Now, explain to me how they keep that on you if you have a felony. and you can go in any state that offers marijuana that's federally illegal and get a weed card with a felony. Okay, even if they only offer it for medical and not recreational, you can go in and get a weed card with a felony. But you can't go in and get a voting card. Now, fucking explain
Tommy,
that,
you just triggered me. Listen, you've served your time. You belong voting, okay? You belong voting. And, you know, I became an actor my whole life to survive. I mean, I got a story that really took me some dark places, you know, the 7-5, you know, fighting, hospitals, you name it, I went through it. And I got to work 3 institutions and had the keys to a complete prison system. But hold on one second. I just want to, for people that are following this so I don't lose my train, I adopt this dog that looked like a lion. His name is Kane. He's on a short leash in front of this bodega. He's got no water, either because he hit the bowl, because he's got no room. But I took a liking to the dog, and the owner had no use for him because he wanted to use him for fighting. And he wanted to give him to me, but he didn't. I had $70 in my pocket. I gave it to him when I got the dog. And I wound up with a friend. And once I got the dog, me and the dog worked. We delivered soda, and I got a little bit of a childhood that I didn't have growing up. And I was a happy guy. Matter of fact, I even got stopped one time by the NYPD. I was doing something. I mean, they got me for something, and I didn't have no driver's license on me. And they brought me down to the station. They were concerned about the dog because I want to hear the good stuff, and they made me follow them. 83rd Precinct in Bushwick, not a good neighborhood either. And they said, look, you got a dog. We don't want the dog to go to a pound. We don't know who you are. We're going to run your name. If you take off on us, we'll shoot your tires. Now, whether they meant it or not, I don't know. So one car in front of me, one behind me. We went to the 83rd Precinct. They made me put the air conditioning on the truck. I went in. They checked me out. And they put me in a bullpen till I was checked out. And lo and behold, my dog came in. And they brought the dog into the precinct. And that's the police that I smile about. The cops
in the 80s. That ain't now.
Well, the cops in the 70s helped me out when I was 8 years old. They hugged me when I was thrown out, and my parents said I ran away. They helped me when I was a kid growing up. I got some good interaction when I'm here. And you know what? Except for the one cop that wanted to kill me, the 7-5 cops, they were on a mission, man. And I just tried to stay clear from these guys. I mean, they were known on the street. I mean, this was a posse, man. And they had their deal, and I had my deal, and we all tried to cohabitate. And, you know, I did every effort I could to get my drugs because, you know, I went and
you tried to coexist as clean as possibly you could. But
yes.
But this dog here that is now the companion part of what you had lost growing up,
yes.
What happens to this dog?
So what happens to this dog is, like any addict will understand, the drugs surface just like Jaws, and you ain't throwing some chum out there to keep it happy. This son of a gun grew. The addiction grew. So it takes more drugs. And then the truck broke down. So I had no income. And now I got no ability to get drugs. And I actually wind up in my apartment with the dog. I wind up hitting bottom. I wind up really hitting bottom. I mean, it's bad news. I mean, you know, the power gets shut off. The eviction notices come. The telephone gets shut off. You know, we're walking around now. The truck ain't working. We're begging for food from Burger King managers. And eventually, thank goodness, my mother does care for dogs. She sent my father. But before we get there, it got so bad, Tommy. And see, people say to me, well, Charlie, I got weak. If you don't eat for long enough, you can get really weak. And I got really weak, not leaving my house. And I got so weak that I got down to only one bottle of salad dressing in the house. That was all that was left. And I would do a squirt. The dog would look at me, I'd give it a squirt. And that was it. As I was in this mental episode of collapsing, my mother sent my father over there. Now this guy, always ramrod straight, good good-posture. He bangs on my front door like the police.
Your dad.
Oh, I thought the police were there. I said, I mean, what are they here for? I open the door, and it's him. And he says, "What are you doing? Look at you." And he's pissed. My mother sent him there. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to come into the apartment. I'd never let him in the apartment. I said, "This is my place." I tried to stick up for myself. He said, "Let me come in and see how you're living." At that point, Tommy, I knew that I wasn't in no shape to fight with him. And I could see the anger coming up on him, and he was going to start belting me. There was no ifs, ands, buts about this. And I ran across Atlantic Avenue in Freeport. It's a 4-lane highway. It's not a highway. It's a county road. Its speed limit's probably 35, 40 miles, at least 40 miles an hour. I ran through 2 lanes that were going west. I get to the east lanes, and I hear, bam! And it's my dog, Kane, gets hit by a car with such velocity that the grill is busted in this guy's Toyota Corolla or whatever it was back then. I think it was a Toyota. And the dog gets back up and gets hit by a second car. So, Tommy, I think the dog is dead. Now, I've told this story a lot. I've told this story a lot. We're going to be talking about it in my book. I'm wiped out of tears, man, on this. But the dog, it's a happy story because the dog is going to get his day in the sun. He is going to have my mother come in as an advocate for him and tell my father, we're going to adopt this dog from this son of a bitch. And my father and me, 2 guys that could never get along, we look at each other, and he gets his Cadillac and puts it right in the middle of the road. And we scoop up the dog and put it in the back seat, goes to the emergency room. And the dog survives.
It survived getting hit twice?
It survives getting hit by twice. And the dog go on to live a long life.
Unbelievable.
So the dog survives. So my mother had me over
Amazing.
a barrel. She said, "Look, you're done. You can kill yourself, not the dog. Not the dog." And I felt sad. I lost the dog. But you know what? At the end of the day, I was free to go kill myself now with spiraling down. But Tommy, as luck would have it, I would never go on drugs again. With the clean spell that I had with the hit and bottom, the salad dressing, time was going on, and the obsession for the physical part had kind of got away. I was still achy because that methadone takes a month, 2 months, 3 months. But the mental obsession was kind of in, kind of out. But the last thing that was going to happen, I got the dog taken. And I was going to go look for drugs one more time, as we talked about in your last episode. And I would, when my father and mother took the dog, I would go ride the trains at night and wind up going into East New York. And to give the listeners an idea of how the drugs had affected me, I had on flip-flops that you get at a pedicure or maybe at a dollar store. These are weak flip-flops. These things are not inner city.
Walking around.
You're not walking 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 steps on them. So the thing is this. I wind up on a pursuit for drugs now. Now, this is mental.
And in your mind, this is it. This is the last time.
Yeah.
One more bang.
Yeah,
right?
one more bang. I'm going back and forth. So, Tommy, I've been off the drugs for a while. So it's a game back and forth. Once you have a little bit of clean time, and these are for people that have never had a drug, some rationale comes back and you say, man, do I want to open this door up again? It's like, you're safe on land. Do you want to go back out in a dinghy and see if Jaws is out there? But as addicts, we are crazy people. I'm addicted to chaos. I'm addicted to anything feels good, it smells good. I said, okay, I'm going to try one more time. But I'm going to play this game back. Yeah, now. But I get on the plane, I get on the train, I go into the Jamaica train station. I get on the J train, which goes in some of the worst neighborhoods at nighttime. Starts in East New York, Brownsville, Bed-Stuy. And during this time, it's not a user-friendly neighborhood. Anybody is subject to being shot. It's like North Philly today. And here is, I might be Italian, but, up close, maybe somebody just think I'm a white guy that just, sometimes I used to get a pass. Hey, man, you're allowed in the neighborhood. You're Italian. Okay, thank you. But I decide I'm going to get off the train. And I get off the train. And I wind up walking until I find the burnt out building. And it's almost like I was directed to this building. I had a 50-gallon drum, and the guys were using the drum as burning wood for light, some heat at this time, and I see they're shooting up drugs. And this voice starts telling me, go ask if you can share that. Go ask if you could have some. And look, I don't believe in a lot of out-of-body stuff. I'm a street guy. I believe what I can see at this point. And, Tommy, I'm not a trusting guy, I mean, and they're not trusting either. When you go to Starbucks, they will not put that drink in your hand until you give them the money. They think you're going to take off with a $3 drink. So think about this for people who say, well, wait a minute. I mean, try to go to any fast food and get fast food. They want that money. So I'm the same way. So,
So you get there, you get off the train,
Yeah.
you're debating back and forth, are you going to get the drugs? You're in a bad
Yeah.
neighborhood. This isn't really the place you want to go to.
No.
Do you end up getting them or not?
So I get to the guys, close to the guys, and the pushing's going on. I go, I can't do this. I can't do this. Prior to this, Tommy, which I left off, on the train station, I see two guys. One is a sergeant with the NYPD who sees me. He knows me. I grew up with him. He's looking at me, cross-eyed. I'm like, oh boy, let me get away from him. And then I see a guy that I'll learn his name is Michael, a peaceful-looking guy. He looks at me and he walks over to me. And he starts telling me about his story. And I asked him, you tell strangers this? He told me that he had been in the Bronx living in a cardboard refrigerator box. And we have this talk, but it's not enough to stop me from using drugs. He tells me about this monastery, Graymore, that saved his life. He told me you can stop anytime you want. You can go to Graymore. I said, they take guys like me? He says they take you, anything in between you, people running from the law, you name it. I said, why are you telling this to me? He says, you don't look too well. And when I got close to you, you look like you got tombstones in your eyes. So this was going to be a changing point in my life. He goes, will you remember it? I said, yeah, Graymore, monastery. I said, I got a memory like an elephant. So I get this deal, and here's what I notice. You ever notice life has a way?
I still don't know if you got the drugs or not. Did he get the fucking drugs when he went there? No. Okay, then
No,
do you go to this place or no?
I don't. I go to Graymore.
You do go to Graymore?
You do go to Graymore, and I wind up getting detoxed mentally. I was already a long time off the physical drugs. I get off the drugs, and I do the program there for months, and then I go to rehab. I'm so whacked out. They sent me to rehab.
Still, congratulations for sticking through it.
Yeah, and I never touched another drug from the early '90s. But back then, I didn't even count it as clean time. I didn't know what it was. I just didn't do drugs anymore from the early '90s. And we moved through all this, and I get clean and this and that. And Tommy, I wind up, doing what I need to do. And I wind up, go ahead.
Well, how'd you end up, you get through the drugs, you're done with the drugs. Then how do you end up somehow becoming, and we touched on it the last episode, but we'll get into it more, a fucking CO?
I started as a CO. Yeah, how do you do that? You know how I do that is I met a girl. And she had a family that was in the Midwest. And she liked me. And listen.
And what, she was working there?
She was a school teacher.
So how'd she get you into the correction officer position?
Well, she had a family in Nebraska. And what happened was, Tommy, we wound up getting married. Okay? We wound up getting married. And once
did that turn out good? Or
well, not so good. Once we got married,
all hell broke loose?
She saw that I was a little bit of a maniac, an ex-boyfriend sent her roses on my watch or something happened. I jump out of a car at 35. She got one shot at the brake. And she started to see, she says, look, man, I got to go. I got to get out of here. She goes, I suggest you come with me. She goes, if you want to. So I wound up moving out to Nebraska with her. And,
I can't picture you in Nebraska.
I can't either. But Nebraska's not like people would think it is. It's not Alabama. Not I'm putting anything down with Alabama, but it's slow in Alabama. Slower than East Coast. Nebraska it moves. It's quick. It's got the Oracle of Omaha. You got the insurance companies there. It's built modern, and people are clear there. I mean, they're not California. They're not New York. They're right in the middle. They're not the South. They're not the North. And they're quick-witted, like Johnny Carson was. I'm dating myself here. And I wind up going to work. But they're kind of by the book, So I applied for the job. And my past, nothing I did was significant that gave me this record. I had some police interaction. And I just flipped the script, which wasn't nice of me. But I said, look, guys, have you ever been in New York, the hiring committee? No, we haven't. I said, they got a policy out there. They stop you for everything. They said, well, we wouldn't think that. I said, you ever hear of the broken windows? They like to cut crime off when it's little. I don't know how it worked, but I got the job. But they watched me. Tommy, they watched me. Believe me, they watched me for a long time. So I got on the job. I got on the Corrections Emergency Response Team, and it was the greatest thing for me. I needed prison. I don't think I'd be here if I didn't have that. I needed the structure. I needed to be someplace that if I was 1 minute late, I'd get written up. I needed routine. I needed a duty. And I needed to be around other human beings that would understand me. Now, the closest thing, now I think that correctional officers are the unsung heroes of law enforcement. They are doing a job nobody wants to do. And you're being around the inmates all the time that don't have a great attitude. It's a hate factory. They don't want to be there. The COs don't want to be there. And I'm kind of seeing everything. But there's one thing I am. I'm a street guy. So the inmate's not going to be able to say to me, hey, I need a cigarette today. Next week he's got me for a pack. That ain't going to work with a guy like me. I was by the book, but I also was by the book that the mission statement told me I couldn't be capricious, retaliatory to these guys. And I must always remember that they're human beings. They're just, and this is what a lot of people that don't know about prison. Their punishment is they've been taken away from the community. It's not for me with a bad attitude to make their life worse. They've been taken away from their family.
You should go out and do speeches to COs. You should.
Really, that's I mean, look, man, they've been sentenced to time away from their family. Nowhere in the mission statement does it say the CO should come in and gripe and make their life miserable or be nitpicky. And no different.
And what year is this when you become a CO?
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah. And these guys, if you give them a ticket, remember, the COs are cops inside the institution. And there's power in writing them a ticket. That can change their parole plans. So I was able to see what I needed to see. And an officer really has the greatest tools is officer presence and communication skills. And I found that if you treat an inmate, I don't even care if it's a death row inmate or an inmate that is in a solitary confinement, they've had a lot of bad days in their life. They'll jump right at the opportunity to have another bad day with you. But that was not my deal.
Now, when you were in there at that time, did you see any sexual activity or any of that stuff? I always hear about that.
Yeah,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
It goes on. It goes on.
You saw it?
Yeah, you wind up catching the tail end of it.
But not like they act like it, right?
Well, but you also do a lot of strip searches and look up the cavity, and you see some things that you don't usually see.
Well, I'm talking about shit that's going on.
Stuff's happening there.
Yeah.
And that there are couples going on.
Yeah.
But again, that was not what I was put on this planet to give an inmate a hard time with that. My job was to make sure he didn't leave the place. My job was, if he was in a bad space, you got to be real careful, because if you're too friendly, like some staff members are, they cross a line and they don't know where that line is. And then you could put an inmate in jeopardy, because the other inmates could say, wait a minute, you got a little bit of communication going on here. Is something going on here? So I think a lot of stuff can be going on with your demeanor and the way you speak to people.
And then what happened with Casey White and it Crystal White? What happened with
Casey
those two?
White and Vicky?
First off, who are those two? And what happened with them?
Wait, you got Casey White, that's the 6'9" inmate that just walked out of jail, not prison, and Vicky White, an 18-year correctional supervisor. So let's think about this. I've seen stuff like this happen where staff gets bamboozled by an inmate, and they're either having relations or they're bringing stuff in. At the penitentiary, we run a lot tighter ship than a jail. You're just not walking out the door like that at a penitentiary. You got a lot of stuff going on. But to my credit, when I looked at the video of the inmate walking behind her, she was giving every SOS. Hey, look what I'm doing. That was her subconscious go, I'm doing something that's not right. Why does an inmate need to be escorted with an officer right next? They got leg restraints on and handcuffs. If the inmate would fall, he'd crack his head open. So that was wrong. Then it was wrong that even though she was a supervisor, the central control and master control that watches the Sallyport area should have said something ain't right here. So he wound up getting in her head some way. And remember, inmates have something on their credit called time.
And what's the Sallyport area?
The Sallyport area is an area where there's 2 doors to freedom. Like I have 2 doors to freedom at my yard. Because a lot of people always say, yeah, I lost my door, get out the gate. Not at my house. The dog would have to get through one gate, then go through another gate. There's not one gate to freedom. I mean,
Gotcha.
prison did teach me one thing. So that's it. I mean, I could see that happening. She threw her life away. She paid the ultimate price for her lust for this guy.
What'd she do? What'd she actually do?
Well, she got him out, and she got guns.
She escaped with them and fucking guns.
She made up a lie and said she was taking him to court, and never took him to court, but took him to a hotel.
You must have really gave it to her.
Tommy, I think we win people over psychologically long before we do physically. And in her case, I don't know what her background is. This is some damaging stuff. Inmates have some PTS from doing time in one way or the other, and I don't want to hear people, well, they can on the comments section get mad at me, but, again, not everybody's Charlie Manson in there.
Now, when did the other book come about?
Which one?
42nd and...
No, 14th and 2nd.
So now this book here, right here, you can get on Amazon, 14th and 2nd paperback.
Yep.
Amazon.com, 14th and 2nd.
Yep, it's fine. Today it was released. And here's what I would say. It's a roadmap out of addiction. And I don't care if you don't have a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, food addiction. This was my way of getting out of this. And my time that I've been off of drugs and alcohol is 12-step, spiritual, and a lot of mindset. So that's what it takes. I'm 24 years. I actually celebrated 24 years on April 6th of 1998 is when I got sober. That was my last drink working for the Department of Corrections.
Congratulations, man.
I celebrated that. I celebrated that last month. But the reason was, I've been off the drugs, for a number of years. But I was working for corrections, and I decided that, a little alcohol won't hurt. And what I found quickly was the brain, this thing, it doesn't know what it's being anesthetized by. It knows something has changed, and weirdness comes back, where more is the motto. So for those, and I don't tell anybody what to do, but those that love marijuana and all that, I would say, you know what? If I loved it, I would treat what's ailing me, because I don't even want to take a Benadryl anymore. I'm 57 and a half years old, man. I want to feel life 100 proof. I want to feel it 100 proof, man. We'll get into this, Tommy. I only eat once a day. I don't want nothing bringing me down. And anything. I mean, I eat too much of a yam or a baked potato, and I'm punch drunk. I mean, the last thing you're giving me is any of these gummies or whatever the hell. That's not for me. But that's not me to say for anybody else. And I'm not battling the level of pain that people use that for, although I am battling a bunch of pain. I got hips, I got shoulders. I mean, I've been through a lot.
Right.
So, 98, I get sober. I just celebrate 24 years. It's a big deal to me. So, I write this book, 102,000 words, and I believe that the people that read this will not be bored. And what's nice is if it's parts of the book you go, this is not believable. Just go to newspapers.com. Just put in whatever you see. Go to Wikipedia. I don't care what you do. You got articles. You got everything. I mean, this is a story that sometimes I go, how did I get through this? How did a guy get through this? Look, there's a lot of people that have done a lot of things in this life, but they didn't go back for more. Okay? They serve. They do time. They go to Rikers. They get out, and it's like, okay, man, I did it 2 or 3 times. This is the last time doing it. I mean, there's a reason why you go to battle, a tour or two. I mean, I went through a lot of tours of chaos.
So that is like the beginning and the end of your addiction. How you got through it, everything that happened in between.
It brings you right up to the last thing that I finally have to do. Is I finally in 2019, I addressed the food monster at 240. Now when I was a young guy and working for the Department of Corrections, I carried 235 like a champ. I mean, I was just a thick looking, Klecko looking guy, Tyson looking guy, big neck, big arms, thick thighs, but that's not the case when you're not working out anymore. I was sloppy.
Slide 2. Let's take a look here, because you were all jacked up in one. All right, here, Charlie, you're in. What is this here, Charlie?
This is actually the control unit. This is a jail within a jail in the penitentiary, and I'm holding a bunch of leg restraints and shackles. Leg restraints, no, not shackles. Leg restraints and handcuffs, and going to get a segregation inmate out for a visit.
And there you are, Jack. Now, how heavy are you there?
About 235. And, that's before the days of nutrition. And I mean, Arnold was my buddy back then, so, I looked up to him, and I believe, a lot of guys get big, but they get a big waist. I had a narrow waist.
All right, Charlie. So here you are. Now, you've lost a little bit. Are you doing 24-1 right now?
No, here's what this is, Tommy. This is 2019. I'm 55 years old, and I actually looked worse than this. This is me starting to shed this weight, okay? And when I shed it, I'm injured. I got 2 injured shoulders, and this is a 55-year-old Fred Flintstone.
What are you eating right now?
I'm eating from the time I get up to the time I go to bed.
Just anything you want.
Anything I want, and I'm drinking chocolate milk as if it's water. So I'm just a mess.
Now, when was it when you look in that mirror and you're like, "Fuck, I got to do something"?
You know
when that hits you.
My mother didn't recognize me. I saw her in 2019. She didn't recognize me, and I just got to a point in my life, that I just I was eating myself to death, and people don't realize it. Here's something that's really important. I used to get mad when I was a weightlifter. These BMI numbers are not the right numbers. No, they're the right numbers, okay? Here's something that's important.
Disagree with that, but okay.
Agree
to disagree.
I think that we're too heavy. I think the BMI numbers have us closer to the weight we should be than we think we are.
But what's the BMI number?
The basic BMI is basic metabolic index, I think it is.
Okay, but how can you go by that number, right? Because if what's your body? They say 98.9 is temperature, right? So if you're 99 degrees, you have a temperature.
Right.
You're 99.6.
Well, it gives you a range. The BMI gives you a range of what you should be at your height and weight. Okay, so.
But that's based on the military from the 50s, and it was about 5,000 people.
But let me say something to you. I'm going to find out when I get down to where the doctor says I should be.
Doctor, don't even come to me with the PCP shit. Come to me with the doctor.
Okay. Well, I got a DO. I think a DO is a pretty good doctor.
I want to hear medical journal shit.
Okay. So here we go.
I'm just breaking your balls.
So here we go. Okay. So here's what I did do, which was smart of me. A lot of times you are fat, me, and I go to the gym and lift weights and swell my chest and arms. I'm still fat. But your mind doesn't look in the mirror and see that you're still a fat guy. It tells you look good. It tells you, man, I feel good. That's the guy that I became with that nice waist like I had when I was young.
Pull up that second picture.
Yeah.
When Charlie lost the weight. All right, here we go. Pull that up. There he is. Look at this guy.
Yes.
Look at this guy. Now, from the last picture to this, how long was it?
That took me about a little bit over a year, and I went from 246, and I'm real light. But if I needed to do it, I need to burn all the fat off. I'm like 170 there.
That's in 1 year. You cut down that much from that other picture.
I ate once a day, and I ate once a day.
So now, how does that work? You go, do you have a specific time every day that you eat?
Every day I like to eat at 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock.
And what I do is my metabolism is not smarter than me. I say to myself, if you starve yourself, your metabolism say to hell with it. And if you starve yourself, you'll get skinny fat. You'll burn all your muscle tissue, and then you'll have nothing.
And your metabolism will slow down. And then once you do eat again, you're
So I basically would eat a Thanksgiving meal every day, a Thanksgiving-sized meal in 1 hour, approximately. And it would be anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 calories. Now, people say you have to have a calorie deficit. I disagree with them. Because if I'm not spiking my insulin all day long, something changes. And I wasn't spiking my insulin. I eat my one big meal, and I knew how to strategically do this. I knew when I break my fast, I certainly don't put sugar in my diet. Yeah. I put a protein. I put good fats, avocado. So I did this, okay? So I get this weight off of me, and I start living in a fasted state. So now I got people that approach me and say, well, I eat 6 times a day, small meals. I said, tell you what. I believe what you're telling me. They say breakfast is the most important meal. I believe what you're telling me. I do all your 6 meals at one time, and when I break fast, that's my breakfast.
Yeah.
So don't call it dinner, call it breakfast. So I break fast, which is breakfast for me, and I eat the person that does 6 small meals a day. I eat them all at one time, and then I go do blood work. So I got great HDLs that are up, LDLs that are down, triglycerides that are low. PSA, which is the prostate, is non-existent. I mean, no inflammation there. And my C-reactive protein, which is a big one, the ratio's low.
Now, when you would eat that one meal, was it always the same or different? Or like, would you eat pizza one of these days?
Yeah, you know what I found, Tommy? Early on, you want to stuff yourself with all the things you think you want, pizza. But what happens is when you fast for 23 hours a day, your body takes over. And it starts to crave things that you can't believe. You're craving cucumbers. You're craving peppers. You're craving Brussels sprouts. Your body will dictate what you want.
It's telling you what it needs,
It's telling you what you need. So early on, maybe I'd break the fast and go, I eat the good stuff and then maybe have some room for ice cream. But sooner or later, I got to the point where I said, this is no good. That's no good. I mean, here's the thing. I was in California recently, and a guy took me to In-N-Out Burger. I've never been to a place like that, right? I didn't mean to do this. I got so deadly sick from the diet I have. Eating that, I didn't eat for 84 hours after that. 'Cause I always clock my 23 hours came, I still was nauseous.
Yeah.
48 came, no good. 72 came, and I was just starting to get hungry. I said, let me go a little further to make sure I'm not nauseous. I went to 84 hours. I felt great. I felt energy. A lot of people say to me, you need all this protein.
Bullshit.
Well, there's a lot of guys that are in the prison that ain't getting much protein.
And
I'll
they're
tell you
fucking
something.
jacked.
And they're jacked, okay?
Jacked.
They're jacked. And what are they getting in prison? Carbohydrates and the lifting heavy weights.
And more processed food than they can ever imagine. And they're jacked.
These
Don't
people,
give me that protein.
I mean, these stick men that tell me they need protein. I mean, come on. Bullshit. So
just like milk does the body good.
Yeah,
What the fuck is
leaches,
good at milk?
It leaches. Yeah. So we know that. So Tommy, I eat once a day. I have a nice body now. But I'm not obsessed with this.
How long was it until you got to that point when you were doing the 23-and-1?
Yeah.
When you didn't even want pizza, you didn't want the ice cream. How long till that?
I would say I got to be honest. I didn't get here overnight. It took me about 2 years, and eventually you get to the point that you conquer this food monster. I got to the point where through the pandemic we got a commercial grade oven. I was making real pizza. And then eventually, I don't like the way I feel on that. Just the way we talked earlier about marijuana, I don't want to take in a bunch of useless carbohydrates and feel punch drunk when I get up. I got energy like there's no tomorrow right now. And I got fight to me. And I didn't have fight when I was eating like a slob. I just didn't have it. But I'm back to being myself.
Well, it slows you down.
Oh, it does. It does. So I found a happy weight. At 170, I was too thin. At 190, no, I didn't even get up to that, like 188. I'm good in the low 180s, man. That's where I need to be, and that's where I need to hang out. I'm strong there, and I can move, and I'm good to go. And I will say this to people that do suffer. I feel as though food addiction is far worse than any drug addiction.
Really?
Because you got to, at least with a drug, there's nobody can say to me with a clear head, hey, Charlie, I got to use meth every day. Come on. Yeah, your care level that your higher power, God made you, you don't put meth in you. But food, they're going to argue with me, Charlie, I got to eat. You got to revisit this monster every day. So listen, early on, I had to have some boundaries. But now I got it.
Now it's part of your life.
Now it's part of my life. And by being in a fasted state at least over 20 hours a day, I get a lot done. And now I have a life.
Now, when does it go south at the correction officer? When does that go south where you're done with that and then you go into the big time stuff?
I worked a couple institutions. They put me in the kid, and when their kid stuff is maximum security, kids that kill people. Then they put me in another.
What's it like working like that? You were a CO in a juvenile?
Yeah,
where
it's a real juvenile.
Where it was kids that had killed other people?
Yeah, it was kids.
That's got to be a kind of a mind fuck, right?
It wasn't. Listen, it wasn't good. And I was okay with the kids. I got a lot of really good letters, accommodations, a lot of good things. I was like a counselor. I actually became a counselor for a little while, and then they said, you know what, this guy, it's not a counselor. This guy, listen, we guys on CERT, Corrections Emergency Response Team. He's hurt a few officers with the rib spreader. This guy is a different guy. So what happens, Tommy? They wind up sending me to another correctional institution in Nebraska, which is LCC. This place, man, is miserable to do time in. It's miserable to work in. It's locked down. I mean, the penitentiary, they got a west track. They got the sun that comes down. It's a beautiful day. You walk around. You kind of think you're free when you're in there. When the guys get out of the hole, they're skipping. Not this LCC. So I do some time there. And somehow I get out of there. I became their safety director at the penitentiary. I got the keys to the whole place. But doing that job, at some point, I said to myself, I don't want to do my life here in prison, because I was getting institutionalized. And to do time, here's something else. To do time working corrections, or to do time as an inmate, you got to forget about the outside. You got to think that the outside doesn't exist. Your only world is here. And I would look at correctional officers come in, and they would be guys that were in the military that want to do corrections for a while before they go to the state police. And after a year, they'd look rogue. I mean, they get a crazy look. And I say, man, this guy was a young guy last year. He's getting a different look. And you can't do the time with your head in the streets. And my head was in the streets at some point because I started the trash business.
And I think for anybody being a CO, you become institutionalized. You're just getting paid to be there.
You're getting paid.
You're getting paid, and you're eating, 3 better meals a day. But you're getting institutionalized. You're hearing the jams and the screaming and the yelling and the whole nine.
And then you don't act right around knives when you're home.
Wow.
You're not comfortable with the knife being out. You're weird with that. You're more proficient with a spoon than you are with a fork. I mean, you a lot of things start to change with you. You got eyes in the back of your head. The inmates are given so much time. You work a seg unit for so long, and they get X amount of minutes for a shower. You feel guilty you're taking too long of a shower. This is me. I don't know about anybody else.
And a lot of times I had noticed, meeting a lot, is that they're cool at first, and then one asshole messes it up, does something just so stupid, and then that sets the standard for that correctional officer for the rest of his career.
It does.
And I think that goes with police too.
And with corrections, I had a lot of fellow correctional officers that wind up killing themselves. I mean, I was in the trash business and working corrections. One corporal, he went home, shot himself on the couch, and then I had to go pick up the couch. I mean,
you just got to think, Charlie, they're living in prison.
They're living in prison.
For life.
And for me, for a while, I felt safe there.
Well, you have a whole different...
I have a whole... So for a little while...
For you, it was the best... It was a good thing.
Listen,
it gave you, security.
Yeah,
it gave you structure. For you, it was structure that then led to, in my opinion, to an extremely successful waste management company.
It was, Tommy, but I had one... you asked me if there's any... I had one situation where I started drinking again in 98. Before I surrendered on April 5th, which April 6th started a new day of complete sobriety, I had been drinking. And I was okay when I was drinking, but when I had no drinks, because I couldn't drink at work, I had some paranoia. And I look around the place, and the place is full of cops. And I'm shaking, man. I'm working death row visits.
Not a place to have paranoia.
And I got paranoia. I'm looking, I said, man, this place is full of cops, man. Yeah. And I got a badge, and I'm like, no, I can't do this no more. I can't do this. So I got sober. And, I got involved. I mean, whether it be death row inmates with no time left. The book goes into all that. I took a cup of coffee out of a guy's hand. I'm telling them what they should, they're asking me for some type of support. I told the guy it was nice knowing you. It's not nice knowing you. That's not going to help you. Here's what can help you. Here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. And to make peace with your situation, you can't get out of this. And, the public loves to weigh in on all these different topics. Number one, imagine a job where you're paid to kill somebody strategically. Now listen, in the military, you're going after an enemy and they're shooting at you and it's a time incident. A scheduled death that's happening at a certain time.
That's right, because you're in the penitentiary.
Your world is this death. Shaving the leg, shaving the head, making sure the sponge is wet, getting you locked into the chair. This thing is happening so diabolical. I'm doing the visit. The family's coming. They're crying. The visitors are leaving. The victim's family thinks they're going to feel better. They don't after the inmate's dead. You
know what, Charlie? I forgot that wasn't very unnormal back then. Because now it's very rare. But 90s, it was pretty not common, but it happened. How many of those did you witness? Or not witness, but were there?
I did three. Listen, 3 of them was enough, man.
Like you did them?
Well, I'm part. Listen, here's what they do.
Are you standing around the fucking thing?
Here's what they do. Just like when they shoot you,
yeah.
There's one guy that has no bullet. You each get a piece of this. You got blood on your hands. You're part of the visits. If you weren't with this, you wouldn't do it. You're getting to know the guy as a human being. One guy wanted to know all the details. He wanted to know what was going to happen. He's going to get electrocuted this many volts. He's going to go to he's going to go to get an autopsy, be at the mortuary, and be buried that weekend. I mean, look, man, there's all parts of this.
And you had to do 3 of them?
3 of them.
Fuck.
Three of them.
So abused like hell as a kid.
Yes.
Left out at 8, 12, 13, 16, 18. Then you find yourself in a correction officer.
Before East New York. And then I'm in East New York with these maniacs.
All those maniacs. Now you're a fucking CO in a penitentiary where you're taking people's lives. I mean, you're not taking people's lives, but you're
part of the situation.
Part of it. Fuck, you couldn't have more. I mean, you're just where we're at right now. You would be a walking anxiety box for the rest of your life.
You would be. And you know, the thing is this.
How you stayed off the booze and everything.
I don't know. That's why I had the short relapse, because at one point, I was like, you know, because the family, listen to me, I don't care what you do in this world.
Yeah.
You got a family, and your family's sad. And you're there, and Nebraska has death row inmates with no glass. You're visiting face to face. You get one benefit where there's no glass, but the downside is staff is right there. So I'm right there, man. I'm right there. And then I'm getting letters from the attorneys that the executed inmate wanted me to know that I treated him like a human being in his last moments. I mean, listen.
Time to go.
Listen, let me tell you something. They could take their benefits, their 401k, everything they have to offer. When I got out of prison from working there, I was institutionalized. I was wanting to be told what to do next. And I was telling people what to do. I just was used to that routine. Unsung hero. And the correctional officers that are listening to this, there's a lot that listen to your show. You guys are my heroes, man. You guys are my heroes that you could do that every day. I can't. By the 10-year mark, I was done, man. I couldn't. 20 years of that, I would have been in a friggin'.
It's a tough job because you don't know who's who, and you don't know when something's going to pop off, and you want to have feelings, but eventually, I would assume, given that job long enough, you become numb. You have to become numb to do that for 20 years.
And listen to me, and you're around all these killers, so you start to minimize how dangerous people are. All right, this guy just killed 1 person. He's not that dangerous. This guy killed 3. I mean, you start to wonder who you're around, what you're around. I mean, there's an inmate named Dunster that people could look up. I mean, this guy killed outside of prison. He killed inside of prison. I mean, he made a mess in his cell with a guy. And
especially in an environment that you're in, what's one more? They're already done. If they're not gonna kill him in the prison, they're gonna be in there for the rest of their life, or they got some type of sentence that basically by the time they get out, you know, they're ready for hospice to come, right?
You know,
so what do they care if you piss them off one day?
Here's the big problem here, and I'm pretty much done talking about prison.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. You're all in the same prison. Okay, so a guy that does some credit card fraud in his local state, or has an insurance fraud that's big enough case, he's doing state time. He's with these guys that were, I mean, there's a guy named Ryan. He skinned people alive. I mean, this guy was a killer, man. I mean, they were all different types of killers.
Why in the hell would you put guy who did credit cards in with
that's the problem.
You know what it does, and you know it better than anybody. It just makes that credit card fraud guy.
Yeah.
Now he thinks of 30 other ways to do 30 other things when he does get out.
I think we need criminal justice reform, and I think that there needs to be time needs to be handed out properly. I mean, the sentences are just sometimes so long they're meaningless. Once you wipe a guy out and you institutionalize him, whether you sentence him to 15, 30, 40, you wiped him out. He's done. He's going to be worthless when he gets out, and he's going to be back in the system. Matter of fact, when I got out, I kind of felt strange. I was like, man, where's the routine? Plus, you know, everybody in prison is who you know. Because to work in there, you know the inmates. And they all know you.
It's your life, and you got the shittiest hours ever. Now, what blows my mind is you go from that to the waste management.
Yeah, I do.
Now, how does that come about?
Well, what happens is along the way, I buy a house, and it needs to be remodeled. I bought my first house. And this is what recovery does. Now I'm not living in a furnished room that's so small that if I want to turn around, I got to go out in a hallway. Or putting a key in the door and blowing a window out. What
do you mean put a key in the door and blow the window?
I mean, there's no room. I mean, I'm living in these rooms. That
the key would go through.
Yeah, window. I mean, listen. I mean, look, man, I had to have a sense of humor through this. I mean, if I wanted to, between some of these furnished rooms, you'd have a bed in there, okay? You'd have your little refrigerator. I mean, really, if you wanted to go you had to go out in the hallway to turn around. I mean, you just had no room. So now I got a house. And I don't buy a very good house. It needs to be gutted. I start taking stuff to the landfill with a pickup truck. And I'm a hardworking guy. And I build, and I get a dump truck. And then I get correctional staff to help me off duty. Then inmates get paroled, you know what? I like the guys that didn't get paroled, that jammed out with their number. They didn't get
They
maxed out, and they were free, and they show up in my office, man. I mean, these guys were locked up, really locked up. A lot of them had done time in the hole, and now they're free. And they said, "Sif, we know you're out. We know you're out with the trash," and I always had a place in my heart for them because I said to myself, if I don't give these guys a chance, who will?
Nobody.
No one. And
that's the fucking answer. Nobody.
Nobody. And what I found, these guys, if you gave them some responsibility, they'd police themselves better than you. Would tell them, and you would say to them, look, here's the real deal. I'm not really your boss. The customer pays me so I can pay you. You're your own supervisor. If we don't get to do more work, I can't keep you going.
I bet they love when you said you're your own supervisor. That was the nail in the coffin.
That was but here's better than the coffin. So the thing was, they policed each other. So, I mean, at one point, Tommy.
And I really respect you for that, for hiring those guys, too.
Tommy, at one point, we have
saved a lot of people from bad shit.
We have a current warden who knows. He knows. He was working with the inmates. Because, you know what? The inmates would get out. The staff would get out. And everybody moves up in corrections unless you're, just don't want to move up. And it was just the right thing. And I think that this needs to go on nationally. I think instead of being a Vicky White and helping the inmate ruin his life, be a correctional officer. When you can't do it no more, leave. But businesses should take chances with these guys. I'd like to advocate for it because they've already done wrong. And we know that about them. And here's what I'll tell you. You encourage them, and things change. Right now, there are inmates on my LinkedIn profile. And there are people that are in some high places in America that are connected as business contacts. I see that they crossed over. And that's really, really, that's really what I like to see.
And that's how the government should want it to be. But they don't want it to be like that, though. You got to remember, all these, they're all privately owned now.
That's very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Because when they're privately owned, now it's a straight business. It's no longer right and wrong.
That scares me.
When you have the waste management, what was it? What was the niche? What's separate? Because you got massive competition.
Well, the waste management, we keep on calling that's the name of just one brand, but that's what we're doing. We're picking up trash. You have a lot of competition, but listen, I'm a recovering addict. I'm a heat-seeking missile. I'm going to get this thing done. What I do is I offer quick service, I offer fair pricing, and I offer willing to put a dumpster down and helping you throw some stuff in it. Not a lot of stuff at first. If you got a radiator, I'm willing to help you. Contractors start to see that, and different businesses give me a chance, and things start to happen. It's very hard to go backwards in the waste business. And from that, with the dumpsters, I wound up with the trash trucks, and because you got to have both, because some customers need dumpsters, roll-offs, some need trash trucks, then recycling came in. So I was busy with this, and it was what I thought I needed, Tommy. You see, Tommy, I was deprived of a childhood, and I thought money would fix me. I thought if I could buy some stuff, I thought that's really what I needed. I needed a few cars. I needed the gold watch. I needed the things that I didn't think I got a fair shot at. Because I think when I was a kid, if I would have went to college, I would have used my brain and got those things. But I had lost that opportunity. But prison gave me the discipline I needed, and sobriety gave me the magic and the spirituality to make this thing done. So I start making some purchases. And I've had a lifetime to know how to make strategic purchases. I'm not going to just go out and buy a regular Mercedes. I'm going to buy the high horsepower AMG. I'm going to buy the right things. And it's funny because I'd buy these cars and they'd say, Charlie, in Nebraska, the people hit for $315 million, and they didn't know what to buy. I mean, I went right in there. About the same time back then in 2006, I knew right away. 12-cylinder Mercedes, suede headliner. I knew how to.
You've been waiting for this moment.
I've been waiting for this moment. I'm going to take advantage of this. And when you start rolling with cars, you find other guys that roll cars, and you find out, the Bentley's are really a better car. And you wind up trying all these different vehicles. And you realize, if you're least bit sane, they're not user-friendly. At the end of the day, your pickup truck that you kind of use to go back and forth to the office makes more sense. And you start to realize that when you go to Starbucks, the parking lot bottoms out, and you hear the and then you go too far and you get the fascia all messed up.
You don't care. Don't give
I
me
do
that
care. I do
shit.
care. Let me tell you what. I do care. And I'm still the guy that rips a paper towel in half, Tommy.
You're still the guy with Gucci loafers on, Gucci
It
pants,
doesn't
Gucci
matter. It
shirt.
doesn't matter. That's money that I know is there. But I am still concerned. I take care of the stuff. So I do all the purchases. And
But how long did it take to get to the point? So when you get into that industry,
it probably took
how
me
long was
7
it?
years.
7 years.
7 years.
I'm always curious to know how long.
7 years.
And you think the big thing with that was you quick delivery, professional, because there's always a certain niche that separates
Wait a minute, I'm gonna make you laugh.
success from non.
I'm going to make you laugh. So there are people in Nebraska. Nebraska is different than New York or other parts of the country. They watch people. And they take their time. They watched me in corrections until I was a legitimate guy. And they gave me an opportunity. With the trash, I had a big hospital. A big construction company that builds hospitals. They were watching me. And they gave me a big contract to haul the trash from a hospital. And then they said to me, look, you got to do demo. We're making an extension on a hospital. Can you take walls down without making much noise and no dust?
Aren't you a trash company?
Yeah, because now I'm willing to do anything, Tommy.
You'll do whatever.
I'll do whatever. I'll not only bring you the dumpster, but I'll find crews of guys that will load the dumpsters now. Because now I'm getting more and more guys that want to work.
Gotcha.
I'm getting guys at corrections that are starting to say, you know what? I rather, even though you're paying me a little less than I'd work for time and a half or double time with corrections, I like working with the crew. So, some of these numbers were pretty unbelievable. I remember being able to go buy a new diesel pickup after working a short amount of time and saying, this is okay. Hard work does pay. So with that, I built the business up, and I, around 2007, Tommy, I get the idea that I like the business, I like the money, but what I really need is the money without the responsibility. So I sell the business.
Do you keep a percentage of it?
I know, I sell it all.
Sell it all.
I sell it all. So I sell the business because this is my new deal. So I sell the business, and I tell Jen, I said, Jen, do me a favor, quit your job today. Now Jen's always been independent. I got to tell you, she has never wanted anything from me. And she's very giving. She's all the good stuff. Okay, but she can get mad. Okay, so where there's a long ability to really take a lot of insanity around her, she at some point here's what I've learned: the longer the fuse, the bigger the bang. I think I like a shorter fuse. So I asked her. I tell her. I said, look, I sold the trash business on a spur. I've been kind of working on this deal, and now I'd like you to quit your job. And we did some traveling. We did some things, Tommy. And after about 90 days, she says, no, I got to get a job. I got to start a business. This is not good. And I started to get goofy, Tommy. And I took, what happens is this. I don't know about anybody else, but when you don't work, you don't appreciate a hot shower. You don't appreciate a meal. You don't appreciate anything because you're home doing it anytime you want to do it. So after about 90 days, if a fly got in the house, literally, and Nebraska's got some big flies, man, that fly would just set me off. I wanted things. I got to a point where, the waiter would come to the table. He'd ask us anything right. Nothing was right, okay? I got to the point where if you said hello to me, it had to be the right hello. Not too strong, not too light, just the right hello at Starbucks in the morning. Because I went with all this energy and I don't have it to do anything anymore. So I took 3 years off.
Well, you have no energy. You have tons of energy. No way to burn it.
Yeah, no way to burn it.
And then you went from learning how to structure yourself, right, through the correction officing job and everything else. Then you had the trash business. So you have structure. Now you have nothing.
Yeah.
All that stuff you built up from not having anything when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Now you have nothing again because now you're just full of energy, full of shit inside of you.
I don't know what's going on.
So
here's the thing. I don't know what basically I did for 3 years, but I drove around.
Spent a lot of money.
I drove around the country, did what I wanted to do, tried to reinvent. I did a lot of whatever I wanted to do. Okay, I visited museums. I got really bored. I went to Dallas. I did everything that I thought I needed to do, which I got out of my system. Okay, now, it was a good time. But eventually, I got up one day and I said, I'm done with this. And I went out and bought some trash trucks because I had a 3-year no-compete. And Jen was really inspired. I had them painted. I came up with a new name. And I'm getting the trucks ready. And the company that bought me was a big company already. And they get a hold of me. And they know how to get a hold of you. They study you. Just like your line of work, they find out how much debris you're taking to the landfill, and they can know how much you're worth. Okay? So that's how they knew how much I was worth the first time. But they knew what I was doing the second time, and we sat at Starbucks. And they said, look, Charlie, you're 3 years older. You had a lot of luck. You're out of the business 3 years. The people might not let you back in. How about we make you the chief operations officer of our company? We give you 5 weeks a year off. We give you health insurance. We give you a percentage of this business. We give you stock. You become an instant 5% owner of our business.
No way you took it.
Like, so this is a good deal. I start getting a calculator. I go, man, how could you lose, man? You're making money where you 5% right off the top. You got all this time off. I'm back in the money, man. I'm like Fred Flintstone when he said, bet, bet, bet. So I got fearful. They put fear in me. So I go tell Jen. I said, hey, Jen. I got a great deal. I said, I'm going to sell the trash trucks back and sign another no-compete to extend it. She goes, you're taking low-hanging fruit. I said, no, you don't understand. I'm older now. I don't have the same drive. She goes, what's happened to you? She goes, you had all the drive in the world. She goes, you're painting, lettering, forming LLCs. What are you doing? So, Tommy, what I do is I take the low-hanging fruit in 2010.
Did you? That's why I don't bet.
I take the position. And it's a position with all the authority. I am running this company, and it's going into the neighboring state. I'm going to get it there with the recycling. We got recycling going on. We got shredding going on. We got a lot of stuff going on. And I kind of like the owner of the company has 3 boys, and they're respectful boys. I get along with them. And I got like a family. All of a sudden, I got a family. And let me give you an example of something I like about these Nebraska folks. You know, a lot of times we can't really talk on a speakerphone, us on the East Coast, because we're going to say something. We don't mean to hurt somebody's feeling, but we're going to call somebody a dummy or something stronger. The Midwest people can talk on a speakerphone. They never say anything that's bad. They just don't say things, okay?
No.
So these people are talking on the speaker. I'm learning a lot of nice things. And I'm learning when they're mad at people, they kind of say, well, we don't know what that guy's going through right now. Let's give him a chance and this and that.
You're not used to that.
I'm not used to that. So I got like 125, 130 employees that answer to me. No, they don't answer to me. They answer like 9 managers. I got a really nice job. So now I try to prove Jen wrong. I go out, buy some nice clothes. I buy the newest Mercedes that they got, and I'm living my life like a champ. I'm a guy that finally now I'm a white collar guy. I'm living this life. Now, Tommy, I start going to work about 9 o'clock in the morning, which is good for me. And I get done around 3:34. But in that time, I get a lot done. Okay? So on August 13, 2012, my life is going to change forever. I'm really going to become the person I've always wanted to be because I'm going to find what made me happy. So on that day, just like any other day, when the day's starting to wind up, I get on my computer in 2012 and I read the headlines in New York from Nebraska. And I see the Daily News has an article. Police shoot and kill pit bull. And I'm paralyzed with this horrible feeling. I didn't know why I was paralyzed. It's because I'm remembering my own old dog that got hit by 2 cars. And the homeless guy that's laying on the ground, that could be me. I was a guy like that. I remember a few times being a little too wiped out on the drugs and sleeping on a park bench or falling over on the ground and people stepping over.
Sure, that was you.
Yeah.
That was you.
So that was me. So what happens is, I don't realize this at the time. I'm so far removed, Tommy. Tommy, all I'm thinking about is cars and transactions and making more money. Because I'm with a company now that says to me, Charlie, if we can get these numbers up bigger and bigger and bigger, we'll sell out to Waste Management. And we're all, and I'm thinking about the 5% I'm in there, and this thing's growing. I'm saying, man, I could really have a nice payday here, get another lottery situation. So what happens is I see this video, and the dog appears to be dead, but I don't believe it. So I call the vice president in the office. I call the president, who's a 60-some-odd-year-old guy in a Midwesterner. They go, Charlie, I don't know why you're so upset. This is a horrible video. But this poor dog is dead. Let it go.
Now, how well is the company doing at this time? Are
Unbelievable.
You're killing it.
We're killing it. Wait, listen. We're recycling. We're getting all this green footprint. We're shredding documents.
You're on fire.
I'm on.
On fire.
We got contracts with the state. We got everything. We're shredding paper. We're doing everything you can imagine.
Possibly can. Then you see the dog, and you make the decision to go find this dog in the midst of the glory of this company.
Wait a minute, Tommy. I want you to know this. I was a guy that was drinking a salad dressing. I've sometimes got to pinch myself. I'm like, we're talking about some serious loot coming in every week. I mean, the kind of money that, is incredible. And I'm honest, man. That's one thing I am. I'm honest. I am honest. But I'm honest if you're paying me. I mean, I probably wouldn't be honest if you weren't paying me. I mean, if you weren't paying me and I wasn't, who knows what I would do. But listen, if you're paying me and I agree to the salary, I'm honest. So the trash business is doing good. The shredding business is doing good. The recycling business is doing good. Dumpster business is doing good. And we're getting contracts all over the place. I mean, this is the growing. If the Midwest, I think New York, Philly is old. It's been around since the beginning of time, 1776. Nebraska's new. They're having their growth spurt now. The infrastructure's there. They're growing and growing and growing. Lincoln and Omaha. 500,000, 600,000 in Omaha, 300,000 in Lincoln. And they're growing. And I'm right in the middle of all this. And I am part of this deal. But for this day, I don't care about the money. I don't care about nothing but this dog's life. You see, I'll tell you this. If I had a pilot's license, money might mean more. But when you can't use drugs and alcohol if you're an addict, and you can't really overeat anymore, and you got all the cars and you got a place, at some point, it's just like money just keeps score, So I wind up putting everything I can into this dog. And I tell everybody the dog lived. And I call the city of New York. And I tell them I'm calling them up on a recycling query. And they're only too happy. The admin of the New York City Animal Care and Control, Renee, she's only too happy to talk to me about the green, because everybody wants to be part of the green movement. They think they're doing something by taking stuff out of the waste stream, which they are. We don't.
Who gives a shit about the green movement? Listen, what I want to know,
the paper bags at Trader Joe's.
What I want to know is about the dog being in the witness protection program, and somehow you find it.
Yeah, so
we went over it a little bit last time.
Yeah, so the dog winds up surviving, and I wind up really hot on this, and I start the New York Pitbull Facebook page. Somebody does a CNN report on this deal, and I want to go to bat for the homeless guy. I want the homeless guy and the dog to reunite.
That was the original.
That was the original plan, man. I got a little Jack Russell that's a biter.
Oh shit! So you weren't even trying to go find the dog to adopt it.
No.
You were trying to find the dog for the homeless.
Yes, guy. The first plea, how I got into this, how I got my nose so deep into this thing was, I wrote on a CNN article online or something on Facebook. I said, everybody worries about the dog, and I do worry about the dog, but I'm worried about the homeless man. I'd like to give him a job and help the man. I'll give him a job and help the man and move the man to Nebraska, and I could help the man like I got helped. And I'd probably make a good friend with this guy. I got more in common with him than these
fucking people you're working with.
Than the fucking people I'm working with. These guys are boring. So I make this plea, and it goes kind of viral. They make a CNN iReport, and it gets shared a lot. And the Homeless Coalition contacts me, and they ask me to put what I'm going to do for this guy in an email, and the East Village Times covers it. And ultimately, the man declined my offer. He thanked me through the Homeless Coalition, and he wanted to move back to Poland and go on with his life. And ultimately, the dog went into the witness protection program. I created all these problems. They renamed the dog. And from New York, they stick the dog in Philadelphia under a new name.
How does one put a dog in the witness protection program?
Well,
is that a common thing?
It's not. But let me say
something that they do.
Well, in New York, everything's a secret. You never know this or that. You don't get the whole story in New York. If something happens to Kansas, the cop at the firstborn. That he's been on the force X amount of times. Every little detail.
When he took a shit.
But
yesterday.
but in Nebraska, in New York, they don't want to give you any info. Everything's a cloud of secrecy. So for those that want to read more about it, just read Nebraska man adopts dog shot by NYPD, and it goes into the details of them putting this dog in a witness protection program, renaming it and hiding it. And I got to find this dog. So what I do is I think about my training in the Department of Corrections. So I stay persistent. So I continue to stay with the authorities that take presence over this dog. First, it's got a legal defense fund that's protecting the dog, then the Mayor's Alliance, and I'm always
That's
this
right. It had a legal defense.
Yeah, it had an attorney firm.
Now, do you think that's so that to protect the police officers that were involved in it?
I think it was to protect the dog. They didn't want the dog to get euthanized. They didn't know what to do with this dog, okay? The dog had this history.
It was like if you do this, this problem. If you don't do this, this problem.
Listen, the dog lawyered up. I don't know how the dog lawyered up.
But
the dog had so much lawyers. And now I'm trying to get into the dog, and I can't get much information.
Fucking dog lawyered up.
So then the dog lawyers then transfer their custody. After the homeless man gave the dog up to the city of New York, because we're going to get viewers that are going to say, this guy should have gave the dog back to the homeless man. No, I couldn't give it back to the homeless man because he signed his rights away.
And he went to fucking
Poland. So the guy, and plus he had some issues. So he was no different than me back in the 80s. This guy wasn't done yet. Okay, so what happens is I wind up, the dog goes from New York City Animal Care and Control, gets lawyered up, then from lawyered up it gets transferred to the Mayor's Alliance. So now I stay as a squeaky wheel on my Facebook page, and I said, look, man, I need proof that this dog is alive, and they're not giving me. So what do? I know that the people across the pond in England think we're nuts. So I play up to them. I say, can I get on a radio? Can I get on a podcast? And back then they said, yeah. And I just said, man, it's too crazy in the U.S. with these guns. Why do we have all these guns? And they put me on a podcast. And I got a nice amount of people listen to this podcast, and people started calling into the city of New York. We need proof that this dog is alive. So he sent me a video on my phone back then. Back then I had a BlackBerry.
Like England, as in the country England?
The country England creates emails, phone calls, and pressure.
Enough traction to push it out
I wound up
here.
somehow getting a video of this dog alive.
Wow.
And then once you gave that to me.
Who would have thought that you would have got that out of England? Like you would have done a podcast.
Well, the England people,
I understand.
Yeah, they're rational. They're not like us. They're rational, so they went about it in proper channels. A New York guy yells.
Right.
They use communication.
But isn't that interesting, though?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, listen, they've been civilized maybe longer than I've been, so they go about things differently. So
maybe England's more civilized than the U.S. in general.
In general. Yeah. So listen. So I get my first bit of traction, and I get this dog to get a video made of it, and then from there, I get involved back with the attorneys. I'm into the attorneys, and I say, look, I need a picture of the dog. The video is moving around. I don't know. I can't. So they send me a picture of the dog. So now I start to build my case. So in the waste business, I decide that I have to look at this thing and become a detective. So I order the biggest whiteboard I bring in my office. It covered a full wall. And I asked any one of my staff that would help me when they're not working to help me find this dog.
So this is like America's Most Wanted, but for
the
start of the dog.
For the start of the dog. So,
now, from the time you start, when you decide, I'm going to go after this dog,
yeah,
it was what, 3 years until you found?
No. I started going after the dog shortly after she was shot. She had a surgery, removed her eye, and she was quietly renamed and sent to Philadelphia. Even the staff in Philly did not know who she was. They just thought she was a dog that was injured. So I worked from September, October, November. It's 3 months, not 3 years.
I don't know why I thought 3
And then
years.
how do I find a dog? I find a dog by looking at these photos and looking at them and looking at the shrubbery. You know, shrubbery is different in different parts of the country. And I say to myself, this dog has got to be somewhere in the East Coast. And the parking lot had no front plates. So I happen to have a business that restores photographs. And they're able to look at photographs a lot closer than you could with the naked eye. I said, I only have one question. Are these blurred out on these front plates, or there's no front plate? There's no front plate. And then there was some literature, maybe eagles, something was that started to make me believe it's definitely Pennsylvania. And then eventually they put up another photo, and there's a semi in the background, and they white out the door, but the US DOT numbers present. And I run the US DOT number on Safer Systems, which for your listeners, anybody that wants to know about a semi, they can put the US DOT number in, and they know all the stats, the carrier, where the truck is parked.
Public information.
Information. So I find out the truck is in Philadelphia, and the next thing is we start calling every shelter, every this, every that. Do you have a one-eye pit bull? And then eventually by December, I finally find the dog.
And if you want to know what happens after that, go watch the first episode between you and I, because that's all there. Yeah. We go deep into that.
We go deep into that.
Yeah.
So we find a dog.
But let's pull up the book. Pull up tab 2. The first one you did was start on Chrome. Now, how long, when you first did Star, the book, how many pages was that? When you initially had it done, how many pages was it?
Well, the book is 302 pages. It's 102,000 words, okay? My book.
Yeah, I'm talking about I'm a Star, which is, you can get on Amazon. You can just type in I'm a Star book.
I think it's, the pages are there. I think it's 30-some-odd pages. 17 are illustrated. The illustrations are really good. Jen did a really wonderful, wonderful job. See, she has taken her time and saw how Star handled her injury. She looked different.
It's a great cover.
She's a pit bull, and people want to be dog discrimination, okay? And here's the thing. There's 3 million or more pit bulls in America that go to bed every night that don't do anything wrong. But when they do something wrong, it makes all the news, okay? And I just don't hear Akitas biting. No, nothing else bites in America.
Yeah, right now it's just pit bulls.
It's just pit bulls.
Because because people bred them to fight, they got a name for them.
They got a name for them. And unfortunately, look at Star up here. I mean, she was a beautiful dog. And these photos are taken on my lawn, and that's a real photo. And recently, Liz Berger, a friend of Star's from beginning, decided she was going to do something really special for this dog.
Pull up tab 2.
And she produced a song.
3, I'm sorry.
She produced a song about this dog's life.
Well, here's your Facebook first. We wanted to hit this because that's a really cool picture.
Star, the New York Pit Bull, and there's Star.
Scroll down a little bit.
Now, that day that picture was taken.
Keep going past that. Fuck that.
The picture that's on her Facebook page, that's a dog we're finding a home for right now.
Good for you.
Yeah, that beautiful dog is going to be euthanized, or a home is going to be found for Marshall, and I think we have the right adopter for the dog. So he's cute. Boy, he is cute.
Yep, right there. A voice for the voiceless. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then go to the next tab. And now this is what Jen did, right?
This is Liz, our friend Liz, who wrote and composed this song that is made for Star's journey, and the song is the words of her song.
Hit preview.
She did both an instrumental, but this is the full word song.
How long did it take for this to come about?
She just produced a song in 2022, and it's just been produced about 2 weeks ago. So it took quite a bit of time. She had this vision, and it got done. I never knew how much work it was to produce a song, but she kept me part of the process of what I wanted in the song and what part of the song and what words were there. And it's pretty heavy. And I also enjoy the instrumental. The instrumental is very, very inspiring.
And that's on what, Apple iTunes?
It's on everything. Spotify, it's on Apple iTunes, it's on everything.
It's on everything.
Yeah, and then they can find it on YouTube too. There's going to be a video of the song. But the instrumental's there. And Liz Berger, she has her own channel, and she songs there.
And what made you want to go further with that, with the song? Because you were on the book, and then you had your own book.
Well, here's the thing. You could only do so much, and then other humans come to your vision. And Liz really just always was there as one of Star's biggest fans, and she's a beautiful person. And this dog has brought people into my life that I would have never met if it wasn't for this dog. So Liz is one of those people, an animal lover, a great human being, and someone that has tremendous compassion for a one-eyed dog.
And you're going to make it into a cartoon.
Jen's working on that right now. That's her deal. She's working on illustrators to make this a cartoon, because Star is one of the 7 dogs we had, and the interaction we've watched with these dogs. They all have been saved from death row in America's euthanization, from Jack Russells to pit bull mixes. And what people need to know is we kill over 10,000 dogs a day in this country. That's 50 states, and that's probably more. California, New York, big states like that, Michigan, Texas, Florida, they kill a lot of dogs, and I got dogs that had no chance, and they are going to be cartoonized. They're already in the book, and the second book will be coming out soon, part 2 of the first book.
Now, do you think it will be when you do the cartoon, you'll turn it into a series?
Yeah, it'll be a series.
Just get the traction off first, because then it really comes to life. A book is great, audio is great, but then when you have a cartoon, that would be something, Charlie. You'll be fucking through it. You'll be glowing from here to paradise.
Tommy, here's the deal. For people that don't slow down, they think I have a small mentality. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Star connected me with the most powerful people that run this country. She's connected me with people that have mentality. Doctors, prosecutors, judges. I met the president over the dog. Once the governor knew my story, I got right to the front of the line, and I didn't do nothing great in this country, but like for Gold Star families or whatever. But I was right at the front of the line. I think the reason being is that we all need a good story, and there's a lot of sadness for a veteran that has lost his limbs. I think America can't handle that. I think we do really good with funerals, and we get really symbolic and powerful, and we do good with Memorial Day, but we do really lousy with Veterans Day. So what I have found is that people that have had horrible things happen to them, veterans, people losing family members to cancer, Alzheimer's, they can relate with Star coming back. Like, we all want to look at Rich Strike, the horse with 80-1, whether we're horse racing people or not, and go, you know what, an underdog can win.
What do you think it is about dogs? Like, they call dogs a man's best friend.
Yeah.
I've always had one. My grandmother, it was crazy. She was perfectly fine. Dog died. Perfectly fine. Her dog died. This dog drove her fucking nuts.
Right.
Like, constantly waking her up, constantly. I mean, just fighting with this dog constantly. That dog dies 2 weeks later. She's got stage 5 ovarian cancer. So now, later in life, my mom got cancer a second fucking time. Lost the dog, got her a dog, drove him down there, and I really think that kept her going. The third time, she was just done. But I think the dog, I think it keeps people alive.
Not only does it keep
100%.
people, not only does it keep
I've actually
people,
seen it with my own eyes.
Tommy, here's what we know. I mean, we have war on TV now, okay? We see the people in Ukraine that have been bombed out of their homes, and we see them with their dogs. Or you see them looking for their dogs. Or I've been there with tornadoes, and people could lose everything they have, and the dog comes back home after a tornado. So I am on the right track. I, made such a big deal about Star. For every once in a while, you're going to get some blowback by non-dog people, and it's really subliminal, because the people that have reached out to me have been in places, whether it be Vietnam, you name it, and they've seen some stuff, and they wanted to hug Star. And you know what? We all have different traumas, and we've all been through a lot of shit. I don't have a cornerstone on wanting to talk about my problems. There's no shortage of people out there that have problems, but not everybody's willing to talk about them, okay? There are people that don't want to communicate this stuff that they've been hurt by, but guess what? Star, they can hug Star. The way a lot of people, I read like the New York Post comments when Rich Strike won the 80-1. I never seen people so emotional, because we all want hope. We all want to see the underdog win, because there's a little bit of us in every underdog.
Well, look at Star, right? Shot, homeless guy, eating on the street. Then think of a vet that was shot, gets out, no help coming out of the military,
None.
fought for the country, no slowly into society, fucking a mess, usually turns into an alcoholic or drug, because they can't just go from all that shit to this.
Yeah.
But then if you give them a dog, though, for whatever reason, in my opinion, because there's a relation. I mean, a dog is actually in the bear. They come from bears.
Yeah.
And then to wolves. And then, So we've been playing with fucking dogs forever. Bears been around forever and forever. You know what I mean? So I just think through evolution and just that comfort of a dog, it doesn't talk back. It's not too little like a cat.
It's just perfect.
It's just perfect, right?
Tommy.
I should get one of those big ass things.
It's
But if you're a big dude,
I know I'm doing the right thing, Tommy, because it's impacted a lot of lives. And I've really been around stuff that I would have never been privileged to. So I had this dog change my life so that I could do better things. So this happened in 2012. I wind up finally adopting the dog in 2013. I say to the city of New York, look, I want to watch this dog for the rest of my life or her life. You can't just give it to anybody. If the dog wound up biting somebody, you get sued. So I wound up with the dog. I put up the 8-foot fence like we talked about last. My neighbors think I'm crazy. The judge. I'm around nice, normal people in Nebraska. Judge. I'm around big real estate guy. I'm around professor. So I got this crazy story, but I got this pit bull. Eventually I find out it's a famous dog living in their backyard. And by 2015, I no longer could do the trash. I no longer could just do what I thought would make me happy. I want to hang out with the dog. And I want to do more stuff with the dog. And the dog really gave me everything, Tommy. I'd like to take a break right now.
Yeah. You got to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
All right. You feel better now? Went to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Got a little bit better?
Okay. Yeah, the bladder of a 57-year-old.
So explain what happened. You got Star, and then unfortunately Star passed away.
Well, got Star. We got her in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 years of good living with her and fun and doing a whole bunch of stuff. She did get cancer, transitional cell carcinoma. It was diagnosed. We gave her everything the vet wanted to give her, which was good because she started to recover. She literally, the tumor started shrinking, and she was doing okay. I took her to New York City. I took her to Freedom Tower. I did a lot of things with her, and things looked hopeful. But unfortunately, on February 19, 2021, I went to give her a bath. And as strong as she came into this life and stayed, she left. And
when you say she was getting stronger, right? She was getting stronger.
She was.
When was the turn south?
Well, here's the thing, Tommy. Jen did all the research as to what holistically we could do for the dog. We had diagnosis, prognosis, and we were doing what we could to prolong her life. And the tumor started to shrink. With some holistic care and with a completely different diet. Now, this dog was already a dog that was finicky eating, but we did everything we could to give her quality of life. In dogs, I don't believe you get cancer-free. I think that you extend life or you get cancer manageable. Humans could go into remission. Dogs are not the same as far as I know. No.
Why do you think that they can't?
Maybe we can't either. Who knows? But the dog seems to be, their life is 7 times faster than ours. So think about that. If they're living that much quicker.
It's going to grow that quick.
Yeah. So if they have 1 month of remission, that'd be 7 months of remission in a human. Right. So any day with a dog after she got a cancer diagnosis was great. But she died. And I'm done crying over this. This is the reality of what happened. I'm living in a solution now, and the solution is her legacy. And the solution is that after she died, I didn't leave the house for a very long time. But filmmaker David Hoffman, who became a friend of mine, who did the video, The Luckiest Dog That Ever Lived, came back to life. He said, Charlie, you must make something good out of something bad. And that's how we met Tommy. We've been continually to tell her story. Children's book. My story, it ties into her story. Cartoon, song, and I'm going to continue telling her story to remind people that there's always hope and life has a way of giving us a second chance by giving us tomorrow, whether you're religious, spiritual, or just want to look at life methodically. If you get tomorrow, you got a new chance. So when there's no life, there's no chance. So that was the message I got from her. And I'm in a place right now that I'm okay. I got to tell you, there is healing, and I think that this is important. I would have done everything when I was using drugs and alcohol not to feel. And that would have been all waiting for me. So I felt every bit of her passing. I have accepted it. And I've cried over it. And I've healed over it. I'll never forget her. But my life that she gave me, writing a book, even going to newspapers.com and hearing about, what my father's real story was, why he was such a maniac. and learning that, French Connection and Bruglia and the whole thing that went along. The guy that I thought was my godfather was a human crime wave. I mean, you guys.
He was a part of the French Connection?
Yeah, he did in 1980. They were looking for him. The FBI was looking for him for $100 million synthetic heroin ring.
Your father?
No, in Bruglia.
Oh.
But they also mentioned he's most notable for his participation in the French Connection. So this guy was a dangerous guy. And when he was arrested with my father in 1956, he was already a 3-time felon, already had been locked up in 49 in Missouri, New Jersey, New York. He was a human crime wave from 1949 till he died much later in life. I made it all the way to about 2006. But that's their story. But the dog helped me. You realize if it wasn't for the dog, I would have never wrote a book. And if it wasn't for the book, I would have never went to newspapers.com. Because I like stuff to be factual. Because I'm one of these guys that I watch a YouTube video and I'm doing Google at the same time. Because I want to put all the pieces together.
You're a fact checker.
I'm a fact checker. Just the way Wikipedia is. Wikipedia, you got to put a citation in. If you make a claim, let's see where you got the information from.
Do they offer dogs like chemo and radiation?
They do.
You guys didn't want to go that route?
At that time, we were between her diagnosis and prognosis. They were talking about it and giving us options. And she got the prognosis in January, and she was dead in February.
Oh, so you didn't even really, even if you wanted to do it, would they even have had time to?
They may have, but the thing was, she didn't look sick. She looked well. But the song talks about it. When she was ready to go, Tommy, she was ready to go. She just left. And she left in my arms. And I told Jen, I'm not a morbid guy. I don't go to funerals. I don't go to wakes. I don't like that. I like to remember people when they were alive. And
same way.
That might be selfish, but I think when we're gone from this body, it's just a vessel.
Same way. I want to remember the person walking around laughing. I don't remember at fucking some casket and everybody's crying with black on. I'm not, and I've been called selfish too, but I just don't like to see that. I like my last memory of that person to be, I don't know, laughing or doing something stupid.
Well, I'll tell you this, Tommy. I told Jen I want a photo of me and my dog after she passed, and Jen goes, she looks contorted because she gasped a few times and left. I went on the couch, I sat with her, and the air came out of her lungs, and a smile came to her face, and that's my personal picture I'll have the rest of my life. This dog not only changed my life, she saved hundreds of dogs from euthanasia. She lives on through children and children's books. She's got a book written about my life and her life. She's got a song about her. She's going to have a cartoon.
Wait till you have that cartoon.
And I believe there will be a movie. Now, I got to tell you, Sony called. People say, they kid around, and they say, look, Hollywood's going to call as a kid. Really, Hollywood did call because an executive from Sony did call me a couple times and told me what would need to be done. And so I can put that on I got the emails like,
you think you could get that cartoon out in like 30 days? I've heard Coco Melon for fucking...
I tell you what, I think 30 days is short, but I tell you what, it's needed, Tommy.
I'm just joking.
These kids need to see
we'll go
an imperfect dog dealing with life on life's terms and this world we live in today, which has got no instruction panel. Anything else on your mind, Tommy? I covered a lot here.
Well, you're a big businessman, so I want to know how does the inflation get under control? What's your stance on that?
Well, it'd be very tough to get into business right now. It'd be very tough to stay in business right now. And these numbers are so inflated. Let me use the trash business, for example. I have guys that are in trash business that contact me. Let's just say a 20-yard dumpster. They're used to paying $5,500 for one. They're paying $7,000, $8,000 for a dumpster. They got to pass that cost on. How do you move freight, dumpsters, trash? You signed up a contract with a company for a yearly contract locked in for a price. Diesel's over $5 a gallon. How do you operate like that?
I never thought about that.
So
Charlie, what happens then? So if you're in a contract with somebody, you're fucked. You're just fucked, right? Because they can sue you.
You can't, there's no ability to go back on a lot of these contracts, especially the big ones. When you're dealing with big companies that you gave them a yearly contract, even if you can go back and say the contract was written that there'd be a fuel surcharge in there. At this level, I don't think you're going to unlevel it. But let me say this too. This thing's also got Profit 19. Because in a lot of cases, people are getting dinged for the consumer's getting dinged for everything. Because a lot of times, maybe the dumpster did go up. Steel went up, fuel went up. But did it go up truly $3,000? Or is there a profit extra margin in there? And a lot of times when people are in panic, there's, as we know, price gouging. So this is a tough time right now. And medicine... people don't know if they're coming or going, and they're very untrusting. And, in 2022, you get the news of your choice. I don't care what you believe in. If you don't like this view, you go listen to this news. If you like this view, and I don't get into that, Tommy, but I have to a little bit. My fellow human beings really divided. Now, me, on the other hand, I get up every day, and I'm grateful I got another day. I really am. From where I came from, I still never minimize that.
Charlie, what's P19? What is that?
A Profit 19. I mean, it's I hear a lot.
And what is that? Basically,
instead
just
of
like
COVID,
a way to inflate.
COVID 19, they turned it to Profit.
Profit 19.
Profit 19. Yeah, it's COVID. Now it's Profit 19.
So how would a trash business survive right now? If you're in all these say you did contracts 3 years ago and you did 5-year contracts at such and such price, not expecting gas to go up.
Okay, let's just talk about
massive amounts. Right.
So right now, drivers are at a premium. CDL drivers are way up. So the trash company has to turn this burden onto other people. So when the roofers call, the dumpster prices have gone up. When somebody calls and they're starting a business and they need trash service, the numbers are way up. This goes to the consumer. The consumer's quality of life at the end of the day gets less and less and less. And look what happens. So the consumer has to make cuts in their budget. And what are they going to cut out? They're going to cut out entertainment. They're going to cut out vacations. They're going to cut out that new car because you can't buy a car right now. They're going to get the most out of everything they have right now. Because right now they're in I lived in survival mode. Now the middle class people are living in survival mode.
And I think this is just the beginning.
I think it's just the beginning too. Why would it get better right now?
It's not.
Why? So it's a very tough time to live right now. And I think that the only way to come out of this is one, better count their blessings right now of whatever they have. And the disparaging difference in wealth in this country has changed tremendously. It's a beautiful country. It gives a guy like me that made a lot of mistakes the ability to go out and make a heck of a living.
Well, it did.
It did.
It did.
I don't know if I don't think it's capable anymore. I don't know
how would it be?
Well, here's the thing. You maybe that kind of business, but there's the public's tough on millennials, but millennials got their own mind and their own mindset, and they come up with new ways to make money. I mean, my daughter dates a very well-known gamer. I mean, this guy games for a living.
I know.
And he makes God bless him, man, but holy cow.
I think there's just going to be certain niches that work, and everything else is controlled by the government, and then everybody has to lean on the government, and they control everything. Did you see that after all this inflation, what he wants to do? He just asked for how many billions to make internet free for everybody, or $30 for everybody, like Wi-Fi. Like he wants to take out, I forget how many millions or billions, where everybody in the U.S., the cap for Wi-Fi is $30. He has that up for Congress or Senate or whatever.
Tommy, what's more important than this? Her, his, is that the American people have got to come together. I mean, I'm older, a lot older than you, and there was a time when people had civility amongst each other. If they voted for somebody that was the opposite of their candidate, they rooted for the country. America first, root for the country. We got some issues to get through. But the news does the same thing they do with the pit bulls. Now, I read the book, The Art of Thinking Clearly. So unfortunately, I can't be bamboozled anymore with these headlines. So if you tell me heartworm is killing all of America's dogs, I'm going to take the afternoon. I'm going to call up all the major shelters in the U.S., take me half an hour to do this, see what the statistics are for how many dogs came in, how many had heartworm, and I'm going to be able to draw my own conclusions if heartworm is killing all these people. I'm not going to let the media tell me what's going on.
But that's you, and you're one in a million.
I'm maybe 1 in a million, but I think you are too, and your audience is big. If the audience is still here, comment in. Let us know what you're thinking, because it's important to get people involved in this and to think locally, globally, and nationally. And I'm going to tell you something. We have nuts in this country on both sides, and any extremist is someone that I certainly don't want to be any part of, near anything. So we go back to the prison. Not everybody is Charlie Manson, and not everybody is the guy that's making the headlines now for these awful crimes. I don't want to give any energy to that.
No, but you can't fix it if you can't. If it's rigged and there's no integrity, you can't fix it.
Well,
have you watched 2,000 Mules?
I did watch it, and it's, I got to tell you something. Again, Tommy, I'm not a political, but I have questions.
And this isn't political.
Yeah.
We're watching facts.
Yeah.
The guy had a trillion million hours of video.
Yeah, I mean, 40,
at these Walmarts.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there.
I mean, there's nothing. I mean, you can't make that up.
Well,
I
as a guy that watches this, and I say, okay, let me look at this. It's 1:30 in the morning. Let me look at this like I would be a correctional officer. Okay, you got your husband's vote, you got your sister's vote, you got the lady across the street's vote. How many votes are you putting in this box? And why are you wearing gloves and then taking them off? If you wore gloves, why are you? I have questions.
Well, remember they said that they started checking the fingerprints.
Well, the thing is this, Tommy. Unfortunately for me and those that are in my position, I can't give my energy to this because it will get me aggravated in one way or another. I have to leave this to other people. And my strength is in picking up my fellow human being. I'm like a soldier that went to war that got injured, and I've been injured. And I really, I can get fired up. Look, I heard everybody my whole life talk about the Kennedy assassination. I got a man like a Correctional, had a lot of problems with the bolt. I've shot it way more times than Oswald ever could have because I've had it longer than him. And that thing doesn't go smooth. I mean, it's a slow clunker.
Everybody knows what's
yeah. So I went to Dealey Plaza, and I went up on the triple overpass, and I went behind the grassy knoll.
To see if it was possible. That is pretty cool.
I went and did it all that.
That's cool.
Here's the way I do things. Instead of going to the museum, I went to the museum last. I said, let me not lead the witness, me. Let me go up on the triple overpass
and make your own opinion
and make my own suggestions on this in my own quiet way. But one thing I know people go back and forth on this on everything. That 6.5, man like a crocodile, that's the proper way of saying that word. That bullet is an odd bullet. I mean, I've seen it and I've shot it enough times that it'll make a watermelon go the wrong way. Some things happen. I mean, I know people are going to say, no way. No. Clint Hills, I follow him on Facebook a lot, and I'm friendly with his wife that wrote a lot of books, Lisa McCubbin, I believe her name is, and I don't know. And I was also friends with, and I got a signed autograph with me and Star from Jim, I can't think of his last name right now. I'm getting old right now myself. The guy with the white, detective with the white suit. And he just died. He was like 97, 98 years old. That was handcuffed to Oswald.
But Oswald,
the problem is, I talked, there's a lot of stuff here, and these are questions that can't be answered in a day, and you wondered. And then there was a General Walker that had the 6.5 bullet lodged in his window pane. A lot of people.
You really like this JFK thing, huh?
I really spent a lot of time on this deal. And I mean, Judge Walker's got a 6.5. Oswald did kind of admit that he took a shot at the Walker back in May of the same year. We don't know, but here's the thing. I mean, we could talk about this all day long. Did he have enough time to walk from his rooming house to get J.D. Tibbet, his Facebook groups?
I just wanted to know about inflation, bro. That's all I was asking. I wanted to know what you thought. I don't see how I didn't
hopefully I didn't lose your audience.
No, you didn't lose anybody. But I just wanted to know from you, from a business, what you thought of inflation. And in my opinion, going after, like, me, you, and ABC would do something, that's not going to do anything. What is that going to do? Nothing. It's not going to do anything.
Here's what's going to happen. What's going on right now with Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, it's like a higher form of trading, of you do services. I mean, eventually, if inflation goes up that much, what will have to happen is, Joe, you'll cut my hair. The neighbor's the barber. He'll cut my hair. I will get your lawns cut. We'll just start bartering. I mean, that's what will happen. And then the IRS will have to figure a way to put a bartering tax on something. But if you bring us down to primitive living skills, I mean, there's a problem here where we are supposed to be growing and with more research and going in a different direction. And, people don't know if they're coming or going. I mean, I don't get into this whole mask mandate, this, that. That's people's business. But I'm not a doctor. I don't think in Florida, when I see people outside by themselves wearing a mask or wearing a mask in their car, I mean, if they're trying to cut down on Botox, that's one thing. Or if they have social anxiety, I think, in fairness, Tommy, and I'm going to tell you this, for a little while, I didn't mind a mask because I got enough little social anxiety. You put the mask on and you don't got to look that good, I guess.
You're your own person. If you want to wear a mask, fucking wear a mask. If you don't.
Yeah, so I went through that. But right now in business, I don't know how we can't continue going this direction. And we can't keep on writing these checks. I mean, we're indebting ourselves to China right now. We got to get this money from somewhere. And what is going on?
It's all on purpose, in my opinion. It's all
sabotage.
Sabotage, and then middle class has to depend on the government. The lower class has no choice but to depend on the government. And then you have the rich, and then you have the government. And that's pretty much what you're going to see until robots come, and then you don't even need to worry about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tommy. Sometimes with the cleanliness, and I'm a little anal, I wouldn't mind a robot serving me at a restaurant sometimes. I tell you what.
Other than the fact that they would just take more fucking jobs.
Listen, I know that. I know. And people are going to get mad at me. But I got to tell you something. I heard recently. Did you hear the thing on Arby's where the manager was peeing in the shake machine? I mean, no. I am real, man. And here's something for the listeners. The cleanest kitchens in America are any kitchen in a prison, because everybody watches what goes on. That is the cleanest kitchen. I mean, you talk about a penitentiary, man. That's where you want to eat. The kitchen is spotless. We're all watching each other because we're scared something's going to be put in the food, and we're all watching each other. So I like that type of cleanliness. So,
Tan, last word about Star. And, really the purpose and what you see in the next 2-3 years.
As far as Star?
As far as you and Star and where your life goes.
Well, I'm hoping, Tommy, that I can, through my book and through my works, help those people out there and find a way to find purpose. I'm my age. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But I do know I do like talking about this scenario. And you're the only podcaster that got me to talk about the goings-on of business and stuff, and that needs to be talked about because people will wonder and say, does this guy live in a glass house? Does he live in a perfect world that you don't have to worry about this stuff? No, we all have to, because we have family members, and when you feel, you can't have selective feelings, okay? If I'm doing okay, but my neighbor's not, if my cousin's not, if this person's not, high tide rises all boats, and this country was doing really well. And we need to come together. And the sooner we come together and the sooner we treat each other like human beings and stop individually identifying ourselves, like Star was not a pit bull dog with one eye. She was a dog. She was a dog. Kids don't look at her and say, what breed of dog is that? Am I going to just think about the dog racism that's in this country? So anybody with any intellect and says to me, okay, Charlie, I think the pit bulls bite a lot of people, and I got the statistics, which of course, again, if you do statistics, I can make statistics go any way, so can you. So the statistics are flawed because you don't have DNA on the dog, and anything's going to be with a bulky head as a pit bull. But if we did the statistics, we would find that what makes sense is a dangerous dog ordinance. And people that abuse dogs should never, ever own a dog again. And if a dog bites, it gets a strike against it. And it doesn't matter what kind of dog bites, it gets a strike. And these people that have unruly dogs that are running, they need to be fined as if they're driving a car drunk. And it doesn't matter if it's only a pit bull. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be bit by a King Corso, a German Shepherd, an Akita.
I don't want to be bit by any fucking
I don't
dog.
want to be bit by any damn dog. And we need to look at it like that. And that would be sensible approach. Just like the sentencing. You asked me early on in this interview about Vic. We cannot sentence people out of emotions, and we have to have sensible approaches with everything. And there are a lot of people that shouldn't have house plants in their house because they're not going to take care of them, let alone a powerful dog.
Very true. Couldn't have been said better. And I'll tell you what, if there's one person that could maybe make a stink about this, is you.
Thank you, Tommy. I really.
Who else could? As far as the dog situation, I mean, you're the only guy around.
Thank you. Because
You are.
I mean, when people,
Right? Who the hell else is around?
I mean, these people. You know what it is? It's not so much the public hates pit bulls; it's who they think owns the pit bull.
Yeah.
That's the real problem.
And that's where the racism
Let me
not
hit-
this other shit,
let me-
not comedy.
Let me tell
that's
you,
where the racism.
in 2015, look this up, people. Omaha, Nebraska had Labrador Retrievers that were the number one dog. Everybody loves the hunting dog, the Labrador. They were big biters. Because who owns them, or who people perceive to own them, that dog would never matter. And you're going to always get people that want to bash these dogs. I want to tell you, I want to bash the people that abuse them. And you know what? This is maybe the pit bull in America needs to finish up their lives naturally, and maybe people shouldn't breed these dogs. These dogs are being bred in backyards where people have no business breeding anything, let alone putting a dog into society with no background. I mean, we know enough now in 2022. You don't have a gun without safety classes. You don't have a gun if you're not mentally stable. And you certainly don't have a dog that weighs 85 pounds that could bite and take a hand off if it chose to, like what happened to that lady in South Carolina. And that's just awful. Of all the advocacy work I do, and it takes one idiot that should not own a dog to do this.
And then makes the reputation of that particular breed way worse than what it really is. It was one situation, or then bred to be a mean, nasty.
Exactly. And you know, we could take all the videos on YouTube of the German Shepherds turning on the police handlers.
And they're the nicest dogs in the world.
And the German Shepherd, we could make a video tonight that would show German Shepherd after German Shepherd overbiting suspects and then turning around and biting their handlers.
Now, if you weren't a dog guy, would you ever think that? I would think if I didn't have a German Shepherd, I think it's a German Shepherd, but you would never think like a German Shepherd would do that. You think from the outside, you think of a German Shepherd as that friendly big dummy that comes and plays with you and shit.
No, yeah, but you think that, and if these pit bulls were so dangerous and aggressive, why wouldn't the U.S. military use them? If these things are such a weapon,
They would have them with them.
they could have them in a minute. These things are biting through people. It's because the dog really started out as a dog that was on Our Gang comedy. And now we have a breed that has been made in backyards. And, you know, for every story we got 3 million plus people that love their dogs. And at the end of the day, I have a lot less trouble with those dogs than I do with the Jack Russell. Oh, the Jack Russell.
I got Jack Russell.
I got three of them. These are 3 bad news bears, okay? These guys are the bad news bears, and I got to watch them, so I keep busy with them. And I also have about 100, and he's not a pit bull because a pit bull only weighs 35 to 40 pounds. I got a pit bull mix that's 100 pounds. That's powerful. That I got to tuck into bed at night. Put pillows on him. I wrap him up. He takes food gentle from me. Jen has TV night with him.
The fuck is he mixed with? He's 100 pounds.
He's 100 pounds. He's probably Cane Corso and a pit bull.
Dinosaur, maybe?
I don't know, but he's fast. Man, I got a video of him racing my 6.2 pickup truck, and he's beating me for 40, 45 yards. Man.
I believe it.
He's going. So, Tommy, I'm really grateful to be here today and talk about the good stuff. We covered it all, man.
Awesome. I'm excited for the cartoon.
I am excited
when that
too.
makes face, buddy, that is going to be some shit.
And it's outside in the universe, and these kids will have an app on their phones, and they're going to get goodness. Instead of getting bad news, you're going to get goodness, and you're going to see the characters of these dogs that Jen took all the time to have these dogs illustrated properly, and all these scenarios that have happened in the house and the dog park over the years. And we got it all to bring to kids, and for kids to tell their parents about how these dogs interact with each other.
You might as well start on the metaverse too, because that's next. Then you can put the glasses on and you're hanging out with fucking Star, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's coming. You're not denying that one.
No.
So I appreciate you making the trip. We'll definitely have another one. Even if it's before the cartoon comes out, we'll go straight business.
Okay.
Because I like to pick your mind about business, because how you can go from where you were to CEO and then boom, just make a tough industry. You know, trash industry isn't something just somebody can walk into. Plus, you have a lot of problems with the state because they have their territories. Compliance, deals, monopoly times a million, and all kinds of other interesting
and
shit.
You got to babysit the trash trucks because they'll get sabotaged early. It doesn't matter if you're doing trash in Brooklyn, Staten Island, or Omaha, Nebraska. the trash industry is a tough industry because there's money on the line and there's money to be made. And it's the only place a guy with no education could go out and work as hard as he wants to make as much money as he wants. And that could really change lives.
Would you say that's still available now, like an option that could be done, or is that just sabotage?
No, I would never say no, because the minute I say no, it'll be proven. It just would be tougher. And, in other ways, Tommy, the new generation's smarter. Because maybe someone would say, Charlie, I know how to get the money to buy an established trash business, and I wouldn't have to buy one that's from scratch. So maybe if a guy or a girl wanted to get a trash business that was established and they could borrow the money, then they'd be in business tomorrow. And maybe that would work better for them.
Yeah, and then they could find a niche to make it different than everything else.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we got to do a business one, just straight business.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I know this is always tough. It'd be tough for anybody, but great job, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tommy.
Wish you the best.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlie.